Stand up, New York Giant fans. So, how are you guys feeling? A day removed from our first loss of the year, Monday night. Obviously, last night was really emotional. Usually, I try to go live after the games. That game was really late. We lost. Had we won, probably would have went live for about an hour and a half. But I figured I'd go live when I had a little bit of opportunity after work. Talk over the game, give my thoughts after a day to let it all sink in. Give my thoughts about the team. Answer some of your guys' questions, go live for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and talk about what we watched last night and, some of the good and some of the bad that we could take out of it and just my overall thought process of everything that's transpired. Of course, last night, the New York Giants suffered their first loss of the year in which they dropped a game 23-16 to the Dallas Cowboys. We've now lost 10 out of the last 11 against the Cowboys, and I think we've lost I want to say our last 8 primetime games, something like that. It's been a disaster on primetime. So I fully understand that a lot of fans going into that game definitely were really revved up as they should have been. We got off to a nice 2-0 start. And as, unrealistic as it was as a fan to believe that we could continue this with a lot of limitations on this team, it felt good to be a fan again. And it felt good to feel like we had a game of importance because to me, that was probably our biggest game since 2016 playoffs. Against the Green Bay Packers after starting 2-0, having a home game against the Dallas Cowboys, having a real opportunity to win a football game. And that in itself at least shows some progress and hope. And hopefully the New York Giants could bounce back this week against the Chicago Bears. But definitely a tough loss. And there's definitely a lot of negatives to take out of it. I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of fans on certain areas on this team that we'll get into. I just tweeted out because I was thinking about it right before I went live. I think it really shows you the importance of Leonard Williams. When you really think about it, we kept arguably probably the best running back in football in check. Derrick Henry, 80 yards on the ground against us, did almost nothing in the second half. Christian McCaffrey didn't shred us until Leonard Williams went out, and then he had that big 49-yard run. And then Pollard had a 46-yard run. The Cowboys averaged 6 yards on the ground. You think about that, the New York Giants have surrendered 2 46-yard runs in basically the 5 quarters that Leonard Williams hasn't been in there. And I really think it goes to show you, for some fans that don't realize how important Leonard Williams is, he's very important for this defense. Obviously, the other eye-opening, things that came out of yesterday, our offensive line, which should not be a surprise to many people. I think we all realize this, but our offensive line has a lot of work to do, and a lot of growth. And Evan Neal got exposed. He went up against a veteran in Tank Lawrence, who notoriously has always killed the New York Giants, and it was a veteran against a rookie, and he picked on him all game. They shifted Micah Parsons from time to time. Andrew Thomas did a tremendous job, but Evan Neal got cooked. That was a big storyline of the game. And the interior offensive line it's just been dreadful in pass protection this year. We'll talk about some of the positives as well. Daniel Jones played his heart out. Say what you want about Daniel Jones. I understand fans want to move on from him. Daniel Jones played his heart out. And I think the offensive game plan, based off the limitations from the offensive line, as I said in my post-game video yesterday, at least in the first half, I really liked it. I thought maybe they should have focused a bit more on the run in the second half, being that they started to get the ground game going due to the fact that they were able to actually throw pretty well against the Dallas Cowboys in the first half, and Barkley started to cook. So maybe a little bit more on the ground game in the second half, but overall, due to the limitations of the offensive line, I thought Kafka actually did a really good job in terms of the play calling overall in this game. That's just my opinion on it. So there's some positives to take. The defense, we'll get into that as well. I don't want to be too hard on the defense because the defense won us the game week 2, no doubt about it. They played very good week 1 as well. But some people look at the score and they'll say, the defense wasn't that bad. We gave 23 points to Cooper Rush, and we should have given up 34, if you're being honest with yourselves. Darnay Holmes had the pass interference in the end zone. They should have had it at the 1. They would have punched it in. That's 4 extra points because they kicked the field goal. And, CeeDee Lamb dropped a touchdown, right in his midst for about 50 yards. So, the defense definitely took a step back yesterday. We provided them with a 7-point lead, and they gave that up, and then they gave up an 89-yard touchdown drive. But hopefully we get Leonard Williams back there sooner than later, and we get this defense back to where they need to be. I fully expect Wink to continue to be aggressive against the Chicago Bears. But let's say hello to a couple people in the chat. What's going on there, Mets man? What's going on there, E-Boogie man? What's going on, Big Moo? What's going on, Moose? What's going on, College Guy? What's going on, Roman? Afghanistan in the chat. Eli in the chat. Dylan in the chat. Roman in the chat. Albin in the chat. Christian in the chat. Anthony Zayas in the chat. Michael in the chat. Beef. Thank you to everybody for being here. Albin, Mets. Thank you guys. Mamet. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Christopher Taylor. What's going on, Gideon? Hopefully you guys enjoying your Tuesday. A day removed from that. We got a quick turnover. We got a football game on Sunday against the Bears, a game in which I'm going to be in attendance. I can't wait to go. And hopefully we get to 3-1. But David, man, thank you for being a member for 19 months. He says, I know last night was rough for Neal, but Lawrence is a top 5 pass rusher going against a rookie. Like Thomas, I think Neal will get better as time goes. Yeah, I mean, listen, I even tweeted that out today too. And I don't think most Giant fans are saying this. I think it's a select few, maybe like 5% of the fan base, but it's just comical to me. Like I said on Twitter today, I saw a couple of people tweeting it. There were a couple of people on our stream last night that were saying that Evan Neal's a bust. And, it's just deja vu all over again. People did the same thing with Andrew Thomas. And I can't predict the future. I'm not going to tell you that I know for a fact that Evan Neal is going to become a great tackle, but I like the chances that he will be. He was a very good prospect coming out of Alabama. And much like Andrew Thomas, he struggled early on. He got picked on by a veteran last night. And this isn't over. He's going to continue to struggle. That's how you grow as a football player. We should have learned this with Andrew Thomas. There is a transition phase for most tackles in the NFL. Not every tackle is going to come right out and look like Rashawn Slater year one. Most of them will not. So I expect Evan Neal to have some bumps in the road, but I still have full confidence that Evan Neal is going to be a damn good football player for this New York Giants football team. And I think we're going to have bookend tackles for a really long time. But last night he got exposed. He got exposed against a really good football player. He got exposed against a really good defense. So far, the Dallas Cowboys have been, I don't have the stats in front of me, but among one of the best defenses in football. I mean, even going into that game, they held, the likes of Tom Brady to under 200 yards, the likes of Joe Burrow to under 200 yards. Haven't surrendered 20 points in a game yet. And we saw, man, what their pass rush could do last night. We were sacked 5 times. Daniel Jones was hit a record 24 times in that game. When you're breaking records with how bad of an offensive line Daniel Jones has had in terms of the amount of pressures that you've gotten in a game, well, that means it was a really bad performance by the offensive line. 24 times he was pressured. He only had 30 pass attempts. So it was a disaster on both sides of the ball. We got manhandled in the trenches. Brandon, man, thank you very much, man. Really wish Tony would play. He could be so good. Yeah, listen, man, I know people love Kadarius Toney. Listen, I'm going to be very cautiously optimistic for Kadarius Toney going forward. Even if he gets out on the football field, I hope he does. We certainly could use his talent. I have no confidence that he's going to be able to stay on the football field. As I've said several times, he's had injury history throughout his entire collegiate career. Now he's had an injury history from within the NFL. But hopefully hopefully he gets out on the field, he stays healthy. We certainly could use him and Wan'Dale Robinson. Jordan Renan basically came out today and said that don't expect the New York Giants to spend any big bucks in free agency because we don't have it. To try to bring in some wide receivers. People have talked about Cole Beasley. People have talked about Odell Beckham. I don't see that happening. So we'll see, but I think they're going to try to find the answer from within, and hopefully these guys can stay healthy because right now, David Sills ain't getting it done. Kenny Golladay ain't getting it done. Richie James has been solid, but he ain't no number one wide receiver. He ain't getting it done. So we're going to need some of these guys to step up, and hopefully Tony can be a big part of that. Drew Apple says, Kalo K, Chris, and the therapy begins. What's going on, True Rapples, man? Good to see you, buddy. Connor says the energy last night was insane. Felt like a playoff game. Oh, yeah, you were at the game. I think you told me that you were going to the game. Yeah, I mean, it looked like it, Connor. Definitely looked like it from the TV. Everybody was up on their feet. And you expected that. Monday Night Football coming up a 2-0 start, whiteout, right? You heard how, passionate the fan base was the week before for the home opener. So we had something to cheer about. We had something to be excited about going in. And I still expect the crowd to be really loud this week, too. I mean, we're still 2-1 at the end of the day. Hopefully we get Leo back. I don't know. Probably not. I'm guessing it's probably going to at least be another week. But hopefully we get him back because we certainly missed him on the defensive side. I know Kayvon Thibodeau struggled. I'm sure people are going to want to talk about that. Azeez Ojulari struggled. We didn't get any pressure. I mean, we blitzed. We didn't have any sacks. But, again, I'm not going crazy. It's Kayvon Thibodeau's first game in the NFL. We know that there's going to be growth there as well, much like with Evan Neal. Big W, man. What's going on, man? The one of the only bright spots was Andrew Thomas manhandled Parsons. I mean, Andrew Thomas is a bright spot every week. At this point, if you're not a fan of the Giants and you don't watch the Giants games, or if you are a Giants fan and you haven't caught on, Andrew Thomas is among the best left tackles in football, maybe the best left tackle in football. And if you don't realize that by now, well, you're never going to realize it. So, Andrew Thomas has been phenomenal all year. He was great last year. He's gotten even better this year. And when you really had a chance to watch some of the film breakdowns today on Twitter, Bobby posted a clip. A couple of other people posted a clip. He was incredible. He continues to be great for this team and definitely one of the shining lights for the future of this football team. If Dave Gettleman gave us nothing else, he definitely gave us a franchise left tackle, which is a huge part of a football team. We just got to get the rest of that offensive line sorted out. And like I said, I think Neal's going to be a part of that. But the interior, I mean, my God, Ben Bredeson is awful. Feliciano, awful. Glowinski, awful. Glowinski is horrible in pass protection. There's a reason the Colts let him go. So, I mean, the interior part of this offensive line, we have a lot to work on, and that's something they're going to have to address in the offseason, whether it be the draft, whether it be free agency when we have a little bit of money. But, yeah, we don't have any long-term answers on that interior. I mean, maybe Gates gets back healthy. Maybe Azudu develops into that. But right now we got a lot of questions on the interior. And that's going to be what the rest of this year is about. I'm hoping to see Azudu at some point become the full-time starter because I want him to develop. I know for a fact Ben Bredeson's not the answer. So hopefully we get him out there. He gets some more exposure. He gets some more experience. But Andrew Thomas is definitely legit on the left side. I have no doubts about that. Danny, man, what's going on, man? The whiteout game was crazy insane, but I was sad we didn't win. I'm in shambles. Hey, man, it is what it is. It's a loss. Got to bounce back. We knew going into the year we're not going undefeated. I think most of us, if you're a realistic fan, everybody's got their own expectations, but I think most fans did not expect a 2-0 start. But we saw an opportunity to start 3-0 with a banged-up Cowboys team at home. So it's definitely a disappointing loss for sure. I'm not telling you not to be upset, not to be disappointed, but I think in the grand scheme of things, the big picture, at least for me, this year's about improvement. I've said that from the beginning. I've been very consistent with that. Didn't raise my win expectations after their 2-0 start. I still said 7 wins. Obviously, I was hoping for more, and I was definitely leaning towards there could be more. And I still think it's possible there could be more. But it's 1 week at a time, and hopefully we could find a way to beat the Chicago Bears before this schedule starts to get tougher. But we're going to have an opportunity, right? We're going to be able to take on the Dallas Cowboys later in the year on Thanksgiving, and hopefully by then we have a more developed team. You have to figure Dak will be back by then, but Cooper Rush looked pretty good too. So we'll see how we stack up against them later in the year. But, obviously we found out we got a lot to work on. A lot of the things that we thought were going to be weaknesses with this football team, specifically on the offensive line, were. They just were. And, when the blitz doesn't get home on the other side, it gets sloppy. I mean, you saw the 3rd and 12 run to Ezekiel Elliott, and this defense just couldn't get the job done, couldn't get off the field, and the offensive line was a disaster. Nick, thank you very much, man. Positive. MetLife was rocking. AT, DJ also. Oh, that's awesome, man. Nick, you told me that, man. I appreciate it, man. And hopefully, obviously we lost, but hopefully you enjoyed the game as much as you could. And yeah, DJ's a positive out of last night. I'm not telling you, for everybody that hates Daniel Jones and wants to move on from Daniel Jones, I'm not telling you the guy's going to be the franchise quarterback. I'm not telling you that he's definitely going to be back here next year. But Daniel Jones last night played his ass off, all things considered. And if you're a fantasy guy and you just look at stats, you're going to say, 196 yards. No touchdowns. What did he do? Watch the game. Open your eyes. Daniel Jones had no help that entire game. Nobody was getting open. The offensive line was a freaking disaster. Daniel Jones was getting rocked every time he dropped back. His pocket awareness in that game was actually very good. His ability to sense the pressure throughout that game and buy time with his legs, step up in the pocket, make plays with his legs. Daniel Jones is the only reason we were in that football game. Him and Saquon Barkley, who also played very well. But, Daniel Jones played well. Daniel Jones played well. I don't care that he didn't have incredible stats. Look at what he was provided with. You give the best quarterback in the world, help like that, and you see what happens. Look what happened to Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl when the Chiefs put up 9 points when they couldn't block to save their lives. So it was a disaster. We got completely manhandled on both sides of the ball, but Daniel Jones certainly played his heart out last night, man. I got a lot of respect for him with his performance last night. He was tough, hung in there, got hit all game. And yeah, that's why I'm wearing his jersey. I'm proud of DJ today. I'm not telling you that I'm pushing for him to be the starting quarterback. I need to see a lot more in 2023, but I'm proud of DJ after last night, man. He left it all out on the football field, and he showed a lot of leadership as a quarterback. And he didn't point the finger at anybody but himself after the game in the post-game press conference, which is what you want your leader and your quarterback to do. But anybody with a brain that watched that game knows it's anybody but Daniel Jones' fault why we lost that game. Anybody but Daniel Jones' fault. Let's see what we got. Paul, man, thank you very much, man. DJ's toughness last night was reminiscent of Eli. Yeah, I don't want to put it on par with that. Dan actually responded to my tweet, and he said that it was reminiscent of Eli in the NFC title game. I'm not going to do that just because of the importance of that game. And Eli is crazy. As bad as Jones got beat up last night, Eli might have got it beaten up even worse in that game. But the toughness was there, man. The toughness was certainly there, start to finish. And Jones did did everything he could. You think about the Sterling Shepard call that a lot of Giants fans were upset about. They got called back. That was a great play by him as well, where he hit the big play. I think it was on a 3rd and long. He did everything in his power, man. He did. It didn't work out. They were just better than us on both sides of the ball last night. But Paul, man, thank you very much, man. Nick, he says Dable seemed exceptionally pleased with DJ's performance. How could you not be? How could you not be? If you're being completely unbiased, how could you not be with what he had last night? Perhaps he's making ground with impressing the new staff and front office. Perhaps he is. I mean, I'm going to let the season play out and see where it goes. I mean, this team's going to have to win some games. I keep saying that, but it's the truth. They're going to have to win some games for DJ to stick around. They just are. But we're 2-1, so we'll see. We'll see if DJ can grow, and I'm just going to enjoy this season for what it is and see where DJ could take us, see where this team could go, right? We got a long way to go. We got 14 more games, and we're going to see the resolve in this football team this week. We got a game we should win. Chicago Bears, third straight game at home. I don't care about injuries. You got to find a way to beat this Bears team. This Bears team stinks. Packers, different story, right? Even if we're completely healthy, we got to beat this Bears team at home. Not traveling three straight home games. We'll see how they bounce back under Brian Dable after a tough Monday night loss, short rest going into the game. They got to win this game. They got to win this game. So we'll see how Daniel responds. We'll see how the Giants respond. But Nick, man, thank you very much. Nick DeWick says, Nick Gates, I told you, stop forgetting. I love Nick Gates, man. Nick Gates is and listen, I'm not forgetting Nick Gates. I have to see him out on the football field before I say I'm confident that he's definitely going to be a part of this offensive line long term, because that's a serious injury. I'm rooting for him. He's one of my favorite players on the team, but that's a serious injury. I mean, the guy had 7 leg surgeries. I have no doubt he's going to give it everything he's got to get back to where he was as a player and become better as a player. I have no doubt in my mind. That guy loves football. That guy breathes football. He's a tough football player, and I'm rooting for him for sure. And hopefully he gets that opportunity next year when he is fully recovered to come out, and maybe he does get an opportunity to be a starter with the New York Giants on that offensive line. But still got a long way to go. Speaking of injuries, we'll talk about that as well. Sterling Shepard. How could you not be upset about Sterling Shepard last night? Say what you want about Sterling Shepard. Definitely has had tons of injury problems throughout his career. He's had a lot of concussions. Nobody's a tougher football player. I mean, maybe Nick Gates is, but Sterling Shepard's as tough as they come as a football player. That guy puts his body on the line every week. The guy's a tremendous blocker. He's got a great attitude. Definitely one of the leaders on the football team. And he's always been one of my favorite New York Giants, during this 10-year stretch or so. I love Sterling Shepard. And I think last night, unfortunately, you probably saw Sterling Shepard's last game as a New York Giant. He's out for the rest of the year. And you figure they drafted his replacement with Wan'Dale Robinson. That was probably the plan going into the year, and now he suffers another injury. So that was really unfortunate right on the last play of the game. And now you think about how poor this wide receiving core was to begin with, and now you lose one of your most credible wide receivers with Sterling Shepard going down. So we'll see what the New York Giants can do. I think they're going to have to tough this game out, because it sounds like, from what I heard today, Wan'Dale and Tony probably will not play this week. So they're going to have to find a way to get this going. And I think they're going to have to rely on Saquon Barkley this week. You saw it last night. We don't have weapons. So you got to rely on Barkley, and hopefully get that run game established. Obviously, Fields not the best quarterback on the other side. So hopefully the defense can do the job next week, because that's how we're going to win this game if we're going to win it. David, man, thank you very much, man. It's time for the true test of the Shane Dable era. In previous seasons, when we take a hard loss, we flounder and hang our heads. I want to see some fight and heart against the Bears. Let's go, G-Man. I think you're going to get it. I think you're going to get it. I think you're going to get a team that's going to come out. They're going to give it their all. We definitely have some limitations, especially if Leo doesn't play. Expect the Bears to try to run the ball down our throat, much like Dallas did. Leonard Williams not being in there certainly hurts that defense. Tony, if he doesn't play, which it looks like he's not going to, Wan'Dale Robinson, we're limited with the wide receivers. So we definitely have a lot of weaknesses on this football team right now. But I think they're going to give it everything they got. And I do expect them to come out with a good game plan. And I think they got a good chance to beat the Bears. The Bears are not very good. I know they're 2-1, but I think we could beat them at home. But it's not going to be easy. It wouldn't be easy to beat anybody with all the injuries we got right now. So we'll see how the New York Giants respond off the loss last night on Monday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. And let's see. Theodore, man, what's going on, man? Crazy thing. How bad the O-line looked and how bad the receivers looked. We still had an opportunity to win this game. Got to look at the positive. Yeah. Listen, you can look at it a couple ways. You can look at it from a negative standpoint that the Cowboys left a lot of points on the board. Like I said earlier, CeeDee Lamb dropped a touchdown. Darnay Holmes, that should have been a touchdown with the pass interference in the end zone. But yeah, we were in that game start to finish. To me, it goes to the play calling. I thought they did a really good job in terms of developing some kind of passing game against that Dallas defense, knowing that they were going to stack the box. They were going to limit Saquon Barkley. They came out throwing to try to set up the run game, and they actually did a good job. Graham Gano had the field goal block, but they had a really good first drive. And I really like the way that they utilized Bellinger. Those first couple of drives, I thought they did a really good job there offensively. I thought the play calling was good for sure. I definitely think it was above average in this game, factoring in all the limitations. So that's a good sign, right? That's something that we're certainly concerned about as Giants fans this year is the evolution of the play calling and hopefully seeing growth on a weekly basis. So I thought the play calling, all things considered, was good. Mr. Mini Guy, man, thank you very much. Not mad, just disappointed. I'm mad at KG, though. Yeah, I mean, some fans seem to be split on Kenny Golladay, and everybody's going to have their own opinion. So whatever. If you disagree with me, you disagree with me. Some fans are saying that, they wish that Kenny Golladay, you can't get mad at Kenny Golladay because he's not getting many opportunities. He's going in there cold. No, I'm sorry. Not me. I'm going to disagree with you on that if you have that opinion. But a couple of people said that in my post-game video last night. This is a guy that's being paid to be a number one wide receiver on a football team. You're making $72 million. You got to catch that ball. I don't care how cold you are. You got to catch that ball. 3rd and 15, game on the line. You have a chance to get it to 4th and 2. Give yourself a 4th and manageable. You can't drop that ball. You can't. It hit him right in the gut. There's literally no excuses. And I think he dropped another ball also, if I'm not mistaken. I think earlier on in the game. Maybe he didn't, but Golladay continues not to produce and hasn't done anything since he's been a New York Giant. So, and he obviously doesn't look very good. I saw a stat on Twitter today. His average yards of separation are even worse than they have ever been in throughout his entire career. So that lends you to the belief that he's probably lost a step, which is probably why Daboll hasn't been playing him. I think he's averaging like 1.6 yards per separation. And that's off of week 1, in which he actually had pretty good separation. People talked about that. So I know he hasn't been running a lot of routes the last couple of weeks, but Kenny Golladay is not the player that we thought we were getting. Let's just be honest with ourselves. And he's far from number one wide receiver. We don't have one on this team right now. So, yeah, I'm definitely disappointed with Kenny Golladay. And also, I mean, you also got to throw in the other receivers, right? I mean, I'm not trying to slam on Shepard. The guy out for the year, he had another injury, but he had a key drop. David Sills falling to the ground at the end of that game, right? So it's not just Golladay by himself, but he's supposed to be that guy. MY Giants 26 says, in my opinion, we needed this loss. Reality check to the players and the coaches that adjustments are needed and the job is not finished. 31 teams have a wide receiver but us. I don't think the Bears have a number one wide receiver. Yeah, I don't think the Bears have a number one wide receiver, but most teams do, yes. Or at least a much better number one than we do. That's something, and Bad Dog asked me that a couple streams ago. I think this week, actually, he asked me, if you were the GM and you weren't taking a quarterback in the first round this year, what would you do? And that was before this game, and even more so now. I would take a wide receiver. Now, of course, I don't know the draft. I don't know who's going to be there and who I'm going to like and whether or not there's going to be a wide receiver worth taking where we're picking. But if I wasn't going quarterback with the pick we're going to have in the first round this year, I think I'm going wide receiver, because not just for Jones, even if you're keeping Jones, you got to have somebody for your future quarterback. So it's so important to set him up properly. So I think I'd go wide receiver if there was one worth taking where we were picking if we weren't going quarterback. That's becoming more and more apparent that is a huge need for this team, along with the interior offensive line, and obviously along with corner for sure, linebacker as well. But we need a number one on this team. We don't even have a 2 right now. And Michael Robinson, man, thank you very much, man. Jones did what he could. The interior offensive line, the inside linebacker, and the wide receivers need help. Growing pains. 2-1 going. Well, they're coming here. Chicago's coming here. Going into Chicago, let's get it done. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a game when we saw it on the schedule. I think all of us said, yeah, that's a game we could win. And I think we lost the game that we thought we could win, not going into the year, but once we found out that Dak was out and everything else. So we got to make up for that, man. I think the Titans game kind of offsets that a bit, but we can't lose to Chicago. We got to win that game, get the 3-1, and see if we could find a way to steal a game, whether it be against the Ravens or the Packers with the next 2. That's obviously going to be very hard, very challenging. But in the NFL, you never know. You see crazy upsets every week. Got to get healthier. Hopefully we get Leo back by then, and hopefully we get some of these wide receivers back. But got to find a way, regardless of who plays in this game and who doesn't. We got to find a way to beat Chicago at home. Just do. No excuses. No travel. 3 straight weeks at home. Got to find a way to get this win this week and get off to a 3-1 start. King John, man, thank you very much, man. I really wonder what Daboll and Joe Shane said Kenny Golladay behind closed doors. I mean, I'm sure they're not happy, but I mean, they probably were trying to. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I would think they would try to be encouraging with him, but who knows how Kenny Golladay reacted? I have no idea. Obviously, they're disappointed with him. They're not big fans of him. He's not getting on the field too much to begin with. And then he gets an opportunity and he drops the ball in a big spot. So certainly didn't help himself out. And he put more pressure on himself this week when he talked to the media, said he should be out on the field regardless. And then you have a drop like that, a big spot like that. By no means is he the reason we lost that game. I don't want to, as an individual, I don't want to paint that picture. Didn't help, but, at the end of the day, the main reason we lost this game is the trenches. I mean, my God, our offensive line has stood no chance, and our defensive line really stood no chance on either side of the ball. That's why we lost the game. But Kenny Golladay certainly didn't help himself. T, thank you very much. Chris, you're measured and rational, yet passionate. Outlook has calmed my hysterical reaction at this L. I try to be. I mean, I'll be the first to say I get just as excited as everybody else, especially on Twitter. I have fun. I'm a fan. And I'm emotional during a game when I'm watching a game, going into a big game, man. I'm gonna wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not gonna be embarrassed if the team loses, and I look like a fool, I guess, if they do. Whatever. I'm gonna go into the week excited, and that's what being a fan is about, at least for me. When you get off to a 2-0 start, you're playing the Cowboys, you have a game where you feel like you could really win, you wear your heart on your sleeve. That's what I did. I think that's what most Giant fans did this week. And we lost. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, after the fact, a day or two after every game, I try to be as level-headed as I can. Not just for me, but hopefully for some of you guys, because I know a lot of you guys want to hear a more level-headed approach. At least some of you guys. But at the end of the day, I always say it. I'm at least slightly biased. I'm a fan, so I'm always going to wear my heart on my sleeve with this team. But I'm going to try to remain even keel. I thought 7 wins at the start of the year. I still think 7 wins. I thought 7 wins before this game last night. But hopefully they surprise me and the team makes the playoffs. Matthew, man, thank you very much, man. Good game, bro. But how about them Cowboys? We own you. Hey, man, you guys earned it. I talked a lot of smack on Twitter this week. I was excited, but I got to man up, man. I got to man up, eat my crow. You guys earned it, man. You guys dominated us start to finish. Where the game matters most, in the trenches. You guys dominated us. So you guys exposed a lot of the holes on this team. And the Giants got to learn from that, and they got to grow. But Dallas Cowboys absolutely owned us this game. I'm not even going to hide that in the trenches. No denying it. Matt, thank you very much, man. Nick Gates be ready for next season. Need him. I mean, I hope. I don't know. I actually met Nick Gates when I went to FanFest. He pulled up to the tailgate we were at. And really nice guy, man. So I'm certainly rooting for him. But who knows, man? We don't know if he's ever going to fully recover from that injury. We got to see, right? First things first, got to get him out in the football field. And people have been positive all offseason that he's been recovering well. I would guess he probably will be. Whether or not he'll be the same player, that remains to be seen. But I'm sure he's definitely going to give it a go, and we'll see how he is next year, and whether or not he gets to play with this football team. Obviously, very well respected from within the locker room. He was a captain last year. NY Giants 26. Mooney is a low-end wide receiver one. I would not say that. I mean, I don't know what your definition of a wide receiver one. So everybody has different definitions of wide receiver ones. When I think about a wide receiver one, to me, the definition is not because you're the number one wide receiver on your team. To me, it's like a guy that I would say, all right, that guy would be a one anywhere. Like that's a legitimate number one wide receiver. Darnell Mooney, to me, is not a number one wide receiver. He's a number two. Definitely a solid, good wide receiver, but he's not a number one. He's not a guy that strikes fear into the heart of a defense. So at least that's my opinion on him. I don't think he's a number one. I don't think the Bears have a number one wide receiver. Christopher, man, thank you very much, man. I feel like teams going to stop the run forces us to throw. Yeah, I mean, I actually think last night they knew that, Chris. I think they knew that going into that game with how bad our offensive line has been and knowing that obviously our biggest weapon is Saquon Barkley. Dallas knew that, and I think the Giants knew that Dallas knew that, and that's why we came out throwing. I think we threw 8 times on the first drive. We ran once because we were trying to keep that defense honest, and then it started to even out throughout the course of the game, and the throw actually helped the run. Barkley ran fairly well in the first half. He averaged about 4 yards a carry. I think he had 7 carries for 26 yards. So it wasn't like last game where he had like 5 yards at halftime. And then in the second half, he broke a couple of big runs. He had about 85 yards on the ground. So I think this game, the pass helped out the run a bit. But yeah, I think if I'm a defense going up against the New York Giants week to week, especially until such time we get these weapons back, guys like Tony and Wan'Dale Robinson, if we even get them back, you definitely are focusing in on Saquon Barkley and forcing the New York Giants to throw the football. Who are we throwing to at the end of the day? You're throwing to David Sills. Let's be honest with ourselves. David Sills would probably not be on a roster for 25 teams in the NFL? Let's be honest with ourselves. He's a starter for this team. You're throwing to Richie James, who the 49ers let walk. These guys wouldn't be on some rosters from within the NFL. there are starters at the wide receiver position. So, I mean, you look at that and you say to yourself, well, yeah, if I'm an opposing defense without Tony and Wan'Dale Robinson in there, I'm putting 7-8 in the box all game. Even if Daniel Jones does a good job scanning the field, getting the ball out, they don't have guys that put any fear into my heart. So expect to see that continue, man. Lexo, man, thank you very much, man. Imagine DJ with some competitive wide receivers. He'd certainly be better. He'd certainly be better. And imagine him with a better offensive line. He'd certainly be better. I mean, he doesn't have a chance with this team, man. Nobody would. Nobody would have a chance with the team we currently have. Nobody. Nobody. We've got practice squad wide receivers, and we have arguably the worst offensive line in football right now. Andrew Thomas is great, but outside of that, it's abysmal. So it's a disaster right now, and hopefully it gets better over the course of the year. Obviously, a lot of injuries to the receiving core, and the offensive line's a mess. Sonny, man, thank you very much, man. Tough loss last night, but let's see how these players and coaches respond to adversity after a little success. Hey, man, let's hope we bounce back. Let's hope that defense gets some pressure on Chicago. We create a couple of turnovers, and we find a way to get a win. We're gonna have to win sloppy, man, right now, especially with all the injuries we have on offense and the poor play right now with the line. Hopefully they get better over the course of the year, which I think they will, like I've said from the start, but I do think it's going to take at least 3 or 4 more weeks. And even then, I don't think they're going to be great, but I hopefully they're at least passable. Slick Rick, man, thank you very much. You think the Giants will pick up OBJ? I do not. Obviously, that's a really popular question people have been bringing up. I'm not saying it won't ever happen. It might happen eventually, but I do not think it's going to happen this year. No, we have no money, and he's probably not going to play until at least late November, early December, coming off the ACL tear. And if you're Odell at that point, don't you want to kind of just go to a team where you can compete and contend and maybe look good and maybe get a contract right next year, because you're not going to get more than a 1-year deal right now coming off the ACL tear. So, no, I do not. I don't see OBJ coming to the New York Giants, at least right now. Rel, man, what's going on, man? So are we keeping 26-8? I mean, that's going to be the question at the end of the year, Rel. And right now I can't answer that question. I could tell you where I'm leaning week to week. I'm still leaning we're going to move on from Jones. I've thought that from the beginning of the year. That doesn't mean my mind can't be changed. I do see a way in which he could be back. But right now, if I had to guess, I would say, yeah, we're probably moving on. All the signs are there. Joe Shane came in, didn't draft him, didn't extend him on the 5th-year option. Jones has to have a really good year. The Giants have to have a good year for him to stay on. And, I hope for his sake, I hope for the Giants' sake, he has a great year and Giants win 10 games and he comes back. We'll see if he could do it. But I'm not ruling it out, but I'm certainly not leaning that he'll be back. Saquon is definitely a interesting topic. For me, it doesn't even become a discussion until such time he could prove that he could stay healthy for 17 weeks. And Raul, I love Saquon to death. One of my favorite Giants ever. Like, I love Saquon. I love everything about Saquon. Whether it be his play on the field, his leadership on it, stand-up guy, always has the backs of all of his teammates. You never see him, he not only does he stick up for Jones and not throw him under the bus, he goes above and beyond for Daniel Jones. And I respect the hell out of Saquon Barkley for that. So I love Saquon, but it comes down to what his market's going to be at the end of the year. And I think there's going to be a certain point where the New York Giants and Joe Shane are going to say, all right, we can't go that far. And if his market reaches that point, he's probably going to go. Do I think he could be back? Absolutely. But thinking about it from Saquon Barkley's perspective, you play a position where you have the shortest shelf life in the NFL, running back, right? You have to get as much money as you can on this contract. And if there's a team out there willing to give him 6 years, much like the Cowboys did with Zeke, it might be a team that feels like they're Super Bowl contenders. And they're like, he may break down after 2 or 3 years, but he could help us win a Super Bowl. He's got to take that money. So we'll see at the end of the year. I hope he's back. I love Saquon, but at the same time, it has to make sense. But we'll see. KN, man, thank you very much, man. Kenny Galladay is trash, but Neal and Tibbs look like statues. Yeah, listen, it's Tibbs' first game. Can we relax a little bit? It's Evan Neal's 3rd game. Can we relax a little bit? There's a little difference for me between Kenny Galladay and Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, okay? Kayvon Thibodeau has played 1 game in the NFL. 1. Okay? Evan Neal's played 3. Kenny Galladay got paid $72 million to be the number 1 wide receiver on this football team. And through 20 games, he has not caught a touchdown. It's a little different in terms of where I'm going to put my criticism. I'm going to give these rookies a lot more time than what we've had so far. I have full belief that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to be a very good football player, and I have full belief that Evan Neal is going to be a very good football player. But like a lot of rookies, they're going to struggle early on. They're going to go through growing pains. Not everybody's going to be Micah Parsons right away. Not everybody's going to be Rashawn Slater right away. But I have full confidence both those guys are very talented, and I would not put my criticism near the level for those two as Kenny Golladay. I think Kayvon Thibodeau will bounce back. May take him a couple of weeks. I posted the quote on Twitter today. Brian Dable during the combine asked Kayvon Thibodeau. He said, listen, you come to New York, pressure's going to be high. Media is going to be all over you. What happens if you go the first 5 weeks without a sack? How are you going to handle it? And supposedly whatever Kayvon said impressed Dable. So the Giants were fully aware going in. He's a rookie, could struggle. They're going to have fans like you can. And I'm not saying, you're entitled to your opinion, but New York fans are very demanding. The media is very demanding. People are going to be all over these players from the start, and not everybody's built to play in New York. Obviously, the New York Giants felt that Thibodeau was, but I still have a lot of confidence in both those players. It's one game. Supreme Knowledge, man. Thank you very much, man. Dable could grab Lamar Jackson and OBJ. Dable could grab Lamar Jackson. Oh, you're saying he could grab both of them? I'm going to continue to say it until such time I'm proven wrong. I don't see, provided he stays healthy, I do not see a way in which the Baltimore Ravens let Lamar Jackson go. Somebody in the chat let me know. Maybe I'm wrong. And I don't think I am. And I've asked the chat this before. Tell me a situation outside of Watson, which doesn't count because he was let go due to stuff he did off the field. Tell me a situation where a quarterback at the level of a Lamar Jackson at like 25, 26 years old, whatever, however old he is, the team let walk. I just don't see it happening. So I think Lamar is going to end up signing there when push comes to shove, provided he stays healthy this year and has a good year. I don't see him leaving. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. I'm sure that'll be a topic of conversation in the offseason. Christopher Spires, man, thank you very much. The problem with the Giants, we need two outside wide receivers, 100%. We need two. We don't have a number one, and until such time Tony proves himself more, we don't have a number two. I know people love Kadarius Toney, but the guy hasn't done anything yet, and a lot of that I acknowledge has to do with the fact he hasn't been able to stay on the field. But until such time I can see this guy put together 6, 7, 8 games in a row, I'm not calling him number two yet. He's got to stay on the field. He's got to produce consistently. So Giants need a lot of help. Hopefully Wan'Dale Robinson could become that too. Obviously, the Giants feel that way. It's why we drafted him in the second round. And I'm excited to see when he does get back into the lineup, what he can do in this offense. But we got a long way to go, man. We definitely are going to need another weapon, by next year. Definitely going to need another weapon because, you think about it, Chris, and I acknowledge that there's definitely a strong possibility we could take a quarterback. Could you imagine? I don't care who it is. For everybody that thinks, and by the way, we're not getting C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud is going number one overall. C.J. Stroud is really good, in my opinion. I know people look at Ohio State and blah, 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 blah. But even if it was C.J. Stroud, the situation as it currently stands, C.J. Stroud ain't coming here and lighting it up. Not the way it currently is. We need to get some help for whoever the quarterback's going to be in 2023. We got to get him a wide receiver because Kenny Golladay ain't it. I acknowledge the New York Giants tried. They failed. He was not worth 72 cents, let alone $72 million. Not worth if Kenny Golladay got a contract for 4 years, 72 cents, I'd be killing the Giants for it. That's how bad he's been. That's how bad that contract's been. So he ain't it. New York Giants got to go back to the drawing board next year, whether it's through a trade, whether it's through the draft. They got to get their quarterback a weapon because right now we don't got it. And Evan Neal's got to develop more. And we got to fix the interior part of that offensive line. So we definitely need more help on that, in terms of our weapons. And Ro, man, thank you very much. He says, hard to believe the Giants will only win 5 more games. I mean, we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna raise my expectations sky high through the roof for this year. I had them starting 2-2. If they start 3-1, they're a game ahead of schedule. But what I'll say, Rel, though, if we're being honest, going into the year, we looked at that 4-game sample size, that 4-game window when we play the Jaguars, when we play the Lions, when we play the Texans, and we play the Seahawks, and we said, there's a shot to go 4-0 there. Might go 3-1. Jaguars don't look bad. Jaguars just blew out the Colts 24-0, and then they beat the Chargers 38-10. I recognize that Justin Herbert didn't play in that game, but that's still really impressive. Trevor Lawrence definitely looks like he's starting to hit another gear. So that Jaguars team probably looks tougher than we thought they would. And the Lions team has been putting up a lot of points. So those games certainly aren't going to be, I'm not saying we can't win. We certainly could, but they don't look as easy as they once did. So we'll see. I mean, I hope they win 10 games, Rel. I hope they win 16 games. But we'll see, man. We'll see. It's 1 week at a time, but got to beat the Bears first. I think this is probably their easiest game left on the schedule. This are probably the Seahawks, if you ask me right now. I know the Bears are 2-1, but they're not a very good football team. So we'll see if the New York Giants can beat them at home. But Rel, man, thank you very much, man. Or the Texans, I should say. Texans are probably our easiest game left on the schedule. Watch Medicine says we have 3 offensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 1 cornerback, 2 wide receivers, and a quarterback to contend. You're saying that's what we need in order to contend? Yeah, I mean, we certainly need a cornerback. We need at least one, like, high-end wide receiver. Maybe Wan'Dale Robinson could be that too, hopefully. Or Tony, you know. I would say at least 2 offensive linemen. Maybe Azuda develops into that, or maybe if you get a high-end center, it improves the guys at the guard. I wouldn't say we need 3. I mean, I would like 3, but we need at least 1 really good interior offensive lineman. You got to hope that Azuda could develop, and obviously Evan Neal gets better over time. Yes. I for the most part, yes. But the beauty of the NFL is it could turn quick. It could turn real quick. But these guys got to develop further. We got to hit on our draft picks. But I think this was a reality check for some fans. I think you saw some of the blemishes on the team last night. MYG31 says the O-line didn't play with heart. I'm pissed. I don't know if they didn't play with heart. I just don't think they're good. I don't think it was a lack of heart. I just don't think they're good. I think they got exposed, man. And I expected them to struggle early on this year. I was hoping it wouldn't be that bad last night. But I thought the first half of the year, the offensive line was really going to struggle. I mean, none of these guys have played together, and the interior is not good. I know people are looking at Galinsky, and they were trying to convince themselves that he's a really good guard. He sucks in pass protection. He's a good run blocker. And there's a reason the Colts let him go. He also probably benefited the fact that he was playing on that Colts offensive line. So he's not very good. Feliciano stinks. And then Bredesen, I mean, my God. So, and Azuda's a rookie who they feel isn't ready right now. So our line's just not good. Our line's not good. I know that we addressed it as best we could this offseason. We need to continue to address it. That's not something that's going to go away. We're going to need to continue to address that. I'm not saying we have to take a lineman in the first round every year, but we need to continue to address that. But thank you, MIG31, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Let's see. Jonathan says, let's say we start losing. I think this coaching staff's ways are going to start backfiring on them with the media lighting the fire with their narratives. Let me take a sip of water because I'm starting to get a dry throat, and I'm going to think about what you just said. All right, let's say the New York Giants start losing. So we lose this week. We lose the next 3 games. We're 2-4. Things are doom and gloom. Fan base is going bananas. I think this coaching staff's ways are going to backfire, firing on them with the media lighting the fire. So when you say that, what do you mean, Jonathan? Like in terms of some of the things that we question in terms of the wide receiver usage, things like that? Because outside of that, I don't think the coaching staff's done anything dramatically bad. But I guess, some people are definitely questioning, why Galladay's not out there more. But at the end of the day, Jonathan, the way I look at it is, what is Galladay? I mean, he got out there last night. He didn't do anything. He didn't get a ton of snaps, but he didn't do anything. So there's a clear reason, Jonathan. This is just my honest opinion on this. And I know as fans, we all have our opinions, and we look at Kenny Galladay and we say he's making $72 million. And we say the guy's had great success in the NFL before. And we say, how could you be starting David Sills? And these guys are paid professionals. These guys get to see these wide receivers each and every day of practice. Kenny Galladay got hurt in 2020, had hip surgery. Last year, he looked pretty good in the Saints game, but never looked near what he was, while he was with the Detroit Lions. And I really believe in my heart of hearts that Dable would put Kenny Galladay out there if he thought he was going to give the New York Giants the best chance to win. He hasn't been out there because he does not think he helps this football team as much as David Sills does. And I think that says a lot more about Kenny Galladay than it does David Sills. So, I don't know. I'm praying Kenny Galladay proves me wrong, but he did not do a good job of it yesterday. Let's put it that way. So I'm not going to really question the coaches on decisions like that. They were not here for Galladay. Galladay did not produce last year. I said long before the season started, I didn't think Galladay was a great scheme fit. I do think he's more talented than Sills, but there may be more to the reasoning than we know, right? There was a procedure that he had in the offseason that they said about 2 or 3 weeks ago. They didn't go into the specific detail of what it was. And they may not like what they see in practice. So I'm not going to kill this coaching staff for that. I'm just not. They didn't bring that guy in here. Let's see what we got. And it's not like he's producing when he gets his opportunities. Sonny, man, thank you very much, man. I know most are desperate for a new quarterback, but we should build the offensive line and the wide receiving core before we get a quarterback. Otherwise, that quarterback is going to have the same problems as DJ. I mean, here's my thoughts on that, Sonny. In an ideal world, you're right. Like in an ideal world, that's what you always want, right? You think about several super talented quarterbacks that have come into the NFL into situations where it was a complete disaster, and that was definitely a large reason why they failed from within the NFL, right? You think about all these teams that have recycled, first round picks on quarterback time after time after time after time, whether it be the Chicago Bears, who have really never had a franchise quarterback, whether it be the New York Jets, whether it be the Cleveland Browns. You think about all these teams, and there's a reason that these teams continue to fail quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. And it's not because they don't, draft at times guys that are talented at the position. I'm not telling you that they've hit on a slam dunk quarterback, because if you hit on a slam dunk quarterback, he's going to make it work. If you hit on Pat Mahomes, if you hit on Josh Allen, but those teams have not built teams properly, and they have not set their quarterbacks up for success. So I agree with you. In an ideal world, you want the ideal circumstance. That being said, Sonny, if you're in full bloom love with a quarterback, you get him. If you're in full bloom love with a quarterback, you get him. Especially being that Daniel Jones is not under contract at the end of the year. That also being said, though, Sonny, if you are not full bloom love, I'm not saying you're like, hey, he's pretty good, I like him. No, full bloom love. If you are not, you don't trade a ton of draft capital to go up and get that guy. You stick with what you got for another year, or you sign a free agent or whatever, but you don't force a quarterback pick. So that's my mindset on it. But if you love a guy, you go out and get him. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. David says, we typically never play on Monday night. I call it the curse of Emmett when Smith ran for 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards in 95 for Dallas. We typically never play on Monday night. I call it the curse of Emmitt Smith. Yeah, I mean, listen, my theory on Monday night, and I could be completely wrong. And listen, there's probably something to it, because last year we probably should have beat Washington. This year we probably should have beat Dallas on paper. But for the most part, I just think we've been a really bad football team. And traditionally speaking, on Monday night, you usually go up against very good football teams or teams that are much better than we are. So I think for the most part, that's why we've had such poor records on primetime, because we've just been a really bad football team. That's my mindset on it. It's why we don't get a lot of primetime games, because traditionally speaking, the best teams play on primetime. We haven't had much success, whether it's primetime or anywhere else. I recognize our overall record's worse on primetime over the last 5 or 6 years, but I think it's because we haven't had a lot of layups. Like last year, I think we played the Chiefs on primetime. We played the Bucks on primetime. So you're talking about, I think, the 2 Super Bowl teams, from the year before. So I think that obviously plays a factor. The Steelers the year before that, right, were a really good football team. We played them to start the year on primetime. KN, man, thank you very much, man. Number 13 came on the scene and took over. I miss having the better player. I know patience can we really hit on a pick? Neil and Tibbs. Yeah, I mean, listen, some players are some players are gonna hit right away, some players aren't. Peyton Manning didn't hit right away. Peyton Manning, go back and look at his numbers. He was not good in his rookie year. He's arguably one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks of all time. So everybody has a different growth rate, and some guys immediately hit, some guys don't. And also, Ken, I think it's apples and oranges when you're comparing a wide receiver to a tackle. It just is. Tackles are probably the second or third hardest position to transition to into the NFL. I would say quarterback. I would say either corner or tackle, or second and third. Cornerback. So it's apples and oranges too. I think it's much more common to see a wide receiver make an immediate impact than you do a tackle. Not to say there aren't some. I said Rashawn Slater was, but you got to give these guys some time, man. I understand that as fans we're upset. I understand that we spent very high draft capital on both of these players at 5 and 7. And in today's NFL, you expect those players to make immediate contributions, but you got to give it a little bit of time. Jason, I thought Danny played a hell of a game, made some great throws, and that was great with his legs. Previous 2 games, he has some clutch moments. Give him some time and an alpha receiver. Been saying this. Listen, I do think Jones is showing some signs of growth this year. I'm still leaning that, again, I don't even want to talk about it until such time the season's over, because I have to see where we are. and I have to see how I feel about the quarterback prospects, and I have to see where we're picking, and I have to see where other teams are picking and what those teams' needs are and everything else. It's too early to speculate for me, at least right now. It just is. We're 2-1, but he's definitely shown me some reasons to have some optimism that he's growing a bit as a quarterback. He's still nowhere near, where we need him to be, but at the same time, what does he have? Where you could really get a good evaluation with him. You saw it last night. You put Pat Mahomes back there last night, and some fans are going to say he would still score 30 points. I don't think so. It was that bad. So, like I said earlier at the top of the stream, look at Pat Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He scored 9 points because his offensive line was pathetic, and then the Chiefs went out there and addressed it. So, he doesn't have a whole lot of help right now. So we'll see at the end of the year, man. We'll see at the end of the year. But I do think, like you said, he has had some good moments this year in big spots, but still got a ways to go. Carlos says, team's going to question the coaching. Oh, please. Let's be honest, 95% of the current roster won't be here next year. Just the young guys and the ones who got paid this offseason believe in Dable. Yeah, Carlos, a lot of the guys aren't going to be. I mean, most of the guys that we brought in free agency were one-year deals. They're flip contracts. Guys like John Feliciano, they're flip contracts, right? We don't know with Saquon. We don't know with Jones. We don't know with Julian Love. Those guys are all free agents at the end of the year. And they're going to elect the guys that they like. It seems like they like Dexter Lawrence. You've heard Wink come out and really praise him, so that may be a guy they're thinking about long-term. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a couple of players that they identify. Obviously, Andrew Thomas, probably Xavier McKinney, potentially Azeez Ojulari. There's going to be players that they identify that they like long-term. But, yeah, you're right. There's going to be a lot of turnover, and you expect that when you have a complete regime change. It's what Gettleman did. They get rid of the players that they don't want to build with, and they bring in their guys. Obviously, with Gettleman, it failed. We have to hope with Shane it works. But there's going to be a lot of roster turnover. We're not done yet. There's definitely going to be a lot more roster turnover next year. And we're going to need to continue to build through the draft. We're going to have to hope that the Dane Beltons of the world and, these third and fourth round draft picks, Azudu, they develop going into next year. Wan'Dale Robinson. Bill, man, thank you so much, man, dude. Bill, man, good to see you, man. Hopefully you calm down a bit. Obviously, last night was tough. Glad to see you in here, man. Long list of missing talent for Joe to fill. Will take time. Ultimately, we finally have a head coach, and that's where it all begins. I'm staying positive and giving Joe and Daboll's a couple of seasons. We got no choice but to, and I think that's got to be the mindset with this fan base. And I say it all the time, man. Listen, I was one of the few guys willing to give Gettleman 3 years. If I gave him that much time, you bet your ass I'm giving Joe Shane that much time. And the one thing that I'll say that's encouraging with Shane thus far as a general manager is there's a direction from the start. With Gettleman, we didn't have that. With Gettleman, they were trying to go in two different directions at the same time. So, yeah, Shane hasn't done too much so far, if I'm being honest. I'm not going to go over the top with my praise. He was handed a 5th and 7th overall pick. Let's wait to see how these other guys develop that he drafted over the next 3 or 4 years. Didn't have much to spend in free agency, but he made some tough decisions. He let go of some players that some fans knew were going to be upset about due to the cap limitations. And what I do like is he didn't backload a whole lot of contracts. He realizes that this is a long process, and I think next year is really where we're going to start to really be able to evaluate him as a general manager. As far as Dable goes, it's early yet, but overall, yeah, I like what he brings to this team. He brings confidence. He shows confidence in his players. You saw it week 1 when he went for 2. Said it long before he made that decision that it was the right decision in that spot, and he did it, and that was encouraging because I honestly, in my heart, believe Joe Judge never does that. And he's had a couple of other instances where he went for it on 4th down that I definitely question whether or not Joe Judge would have done that. So I like that. His timeout usage for the most part's been good. You could question a couple of things here and there in terms of, situational coaching, but he's a rookie. He's never coached before. So overall, I like him so far. It's early, but I like that we have an offensive-minded head coach and an offensively driven league. So far, so good. We got a long way to go, and hopefully these guys continue to get better and the New York Giants start to build something. The other thing that I like that I say all the time, Bill, is that these guys are going to be on the same timeline. They came together from Buffalo, right? It's not like Shermer and Gettleman that was kind of just thrown together. No, this was a guy that was handpicked by Joe Shane. You knew the second Joe Shane got the job, Dable was coming along for the ride. And that's exactly what happened. So that's good. You want your GM and head coach to work together. You don't want these guys to split up. That's a disaster. In an ideal world, you want your GM and head coach on the same timeline. You want them to grow together. So I think they're getting at least 3 years. I think the fact they didn't draft the quarterback only cemented that further. Because if they do draft one next year, you're not firing the GM and the head coach after a first year with a rookie quarterback. So they're getting at least 3 years together and hopefully another 30. Hopefully they stay together for a long time. LT, the only Eagles fan that has those initials, says as an Eagle fan, that was probably DJ's best full game. I think DJ played a great game. He's had some other really good games, right? I mean, in his rookie year, people point to they'll just look at stats and they'll look at the 5 touchdown performance against the Washington football team or Commanders or whatever they're called now. They'll look at the 4 touchdown performance against the Jets that resulted in a loss. But in terms of what he had to do in that game last night and the hits that he was taking and the lack of support that he had, he was getting hit like a piñata. The fact that he didn't turn the ball over, and no, I'm not counting that interception. Yeah, it'll count on the stat sheet. It'll count if you're a fantasy football guy. I'm not counting that interception. That was on David Sills. He fell on his route. Obviously, at that point, it was desperation mode to begin with, right? They had their ears pinned back. There was a minute to go in the game. So for him not to turn the football over and him to get hit as much as he did in that game and him to make some of the plays that he did and even give the Giants an opportunity in that game. You look at the time that the Dallas Cowboys had to operate. Every time they handed the ball off, they're getting 5 yards on first down. They're in second and manageable, third and manageable every single time. Rush had 4 or 5 seconds to throw every time he dropped back to pass, and that's with the New York Giants sending the blitz, having 1 or 2 less guys back there in coverage. For Jones to even stay competitive from within that game with all his weapons out, yeah, I think that is one of his better performances. I thought he had a really good game last night. And, he's had some other good games in losing efforts. He had a really good game last year against Washington where he had the 4, I think should have been a 4 touchdown effort, but Slayton dropped the ball. And I think they had a phantom holding call on a run. But had that not had a few things went his way, would have had 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing. He had a really good game against the Saints last year with that comeback late. So he's had some good moments, but all things considered, this was definitely one of his better games. So yeah, I like the effort from Jones last night. I'll tell you that right now. Ninja Man, thank you very much, man. Do you think the Giants will give Barkley a contract by the end of the season? Also, with Daniel Jones, this dude has so much potential, and I do hope he gets better under Dable before the season ends, or it's goodbye to 8. Yeah, I mean, the Barkley question, like I said, it starts with 17 games, staying healthy, and then I think if you're Joe Shane, you have to consider it. I'm not saying you have to do it, but you have to consider it. People say he's just a running back. He's not just a running back. He's a weapon. He's a rare running back that could have a big outcome on a football game. I understand the logic that if you build a really good offensive line, you could have a good ground game. And that is absolutely true. I also understand the logic that Joe Shane never drafted the guy. And I also understand the logic that Saquon Barkley's had an injury history in the past. So there's a lot of variables that are going to go into that conversation and that discussion. And I think there'll be a market for Barkley. And if the market is higher than Joe Shane's willing to go, they're going to let him walk. I don't think Joe Shane is going to just bend over backwards for Saquon Barkley. As much as I love Barkley and I love him to see him be a lifetime New York Giant. And for people that think that Saquon Barkley is a friendly guy, and he is, I love him to death. My favorite player in the team, team first guy. Make no mistake about it. But if I was his agent, I would say you're an absolute moron if you take 1 penny less than what you're worth. You play a position where this is going to be your only chance to get a big contract. He's going to be 25, 26 next offseason at a position where players typically break down before the age of 30. If somebody offers him a big deal, he's got to take it. He'd be a fool not to. So we'll see with Saquon Barkley. It's going to come down to his market and how, and how teams value him around the league. And that'll be a topic of conversation if he stays healthy this year. As far as Daniel Jones goes, man, I've said it all along. I think Jones needs to play this team into a spot where they can't draft a quarterback. And if he does that, that means he played pretty well. And then I think he probably gets a year. Not on the franchise tag. I think they give him a contract where they could move the money around and get rid of him after a year if he doesn't take another big step. But that's my outlook on it. But obviously, we got to probably make the playoffs for that to happen, and he's got to play pretty well in doing it. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how we do week 4. But yeah, I think Barkley, the chances of Barkley coming back in terms of probability go up if Jones is not back, because I think at that point, at least Joe Shane could convince himself that a really talented playmaker like Saquon Barkley could help the development on a team that lacks as many weapons as we have, could help the development of a young quarterback. But the money's got to be right. But if Jones is not back, I actually think the likelihood of Barkley coming back goes up. Your Highness Charles, man, thank you very much, man. We need to give Daniel Jones an extension now Clearly, we haven't been able to see him in a fair situation. Maybe after 10 to 12 years, we can evaluate. Here's my issue. And Your Highness Charles, I feel you, man. I'm rooting for Daniel Jones. You guys know I hated the pick. You guys know I try to be as fair as I can with Daniel Jones. I root my ass off for Daniel Jones. I want Daniel Jones to be the greatest Giants quarterback of all time. But taking the fan hat off, and as unfair as it may be to Daniel Jones, because it has been, Daniel Jones has gotten screwed. We all know it. Anybody that's objective knows it. He's gotten screwed from the start. Okay? But at the end of the day, you got to think like a general manager. And let me ask everybody in the chat, be honest with yourselves. Don't think from an emotional standpoint. If you're Joe Schoen, and I don't know what the situation is going to be like yet. I don't know where we're going to be picking. I don't know how the Giants are going to feel about this quarterback class. But if you're Joe Schoen, you never drafted Daniel Jones. And you could draft a quarterback, even if you think the quarterback's equal to Daniel Jones. You don't even necessarily know if he's going to be better than Daniel Jones. You think he's equal to Daniel Jones. And you could pay him a fraction of what it would cost to retain Daniel Jones. Why wouldn't you draft the quarterback? You get him 5 years on a rookie salary. It's your guy. You got to handpick him. So I got to be honest, and when I talk about the outlook and where this could be going at the end of the year, and I know everybody's, steadfast, or some people are steadfast and say we got to keep this guy, we got to give him an opportunity, and we'll see. It's going to come down to the dollars and cents, and we'll see. We'll see at the end of the year where we're at as a franchise and how we evaluate these quarterbacks. But I very much doubt he's getting a multi-year extension. Very much doubt that. If he is back, it'll be a 1-year commitment where he needs to continue to prove himself and grow as a player. And it'll only happen, like I said, if we're in a spot where we don't really, really like a quarterback, or we can't potentially trade up to get a quarterback we really, really like. The team needs to win some football games. That's my outlook on Jones. And as unfair as it's been for Jones, that's life in the NFL. I could point to several quarterbacks in the league where they were not given fair opportunities. And if he does not stay on with the New York Giants, maybe he gets a better opportunity somewhere else and he's successful. So we'll see. Supreme Knowledge. He says, where's Kaepernick when you need him? Nah, man. Listen, I've said it all the time. People have asked me about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick got screwed. That's my opinion on it. And I ain't going to get into political stuff. I know people are sensitive about it, whatever. Colin Kaepernick got screwed, in my opinion. He was definitely good enough to start in the NFL. He definitely got blackballed by the NFL to appease to the fans, because people wanted to make that about the military when it wasn't. That's my opinion on it. But Colin Kaepernick has not played in the NFL for 6 years, 7 years. Colin Kaepernick ain't playing. He's done. He's fine. Colin Kaepernick's getting paid millions of dollars to represent Nike, and he's not getting his head beat in. So he won. He's fine. But he ain't, he's not an option. Jonathan, man, thank you very much, man. Sorry I'm late to the stream, but Chris, give me your take on what you believe the team will do at the deadline. Are there pieces to be moved for picks? Yeah, sorry I'm late to the stream, Chris, but Chris, give me your take on what you believe the team will do at the deadline. I mean, I don't know I don't know where we're gonna be. And don't ever apologize for being late to the stream, by the way, Jonathan. And thank you for the suggestion. Well, it wasn't you didn't suggest it because I was gonna work with JD anyway, but you kind of pushed it even more. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the collab I did with JD. Definitely gonna work with JD more. I was actually talking to JD last night, and we're talking about potentially doing like an all New York sports podcast in the future. And obviously doing more shows where, we focused on the Giants, during the hot time, right? But, sprinkling in some Knicks, sprinkling in some Mets along the way. So I'm looking forward to that. He's a great guy and had a lot of fun with him on there. So I know you enjoyed that. As far as the what we do at the deadline, are there pieces to be moved for picks? I don't know where we're going to be at the deadline, right? I don't know what our records are going to be. I don't know how the team's going to look. But if the team's out of it, yeah, I think there's definitely some players that could be moved. And I think if you're Joe Schoen, you have to identify which players you don't plan to keep long-term. And if there's value for them, you get them out of here. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. You have to trade your assets while they have value. As far as what pieces, I mean, the most obvious piece, and again, I'm not rooting for it, but the most obvious piece, the way he's played, like, let's just go into the hypothetical that we're 2-6. I don't even know when the trade deadline is, and I don't think we will be, by the way, but let's just say we are. And we're like, yeah, it's time to sell. Saquon Barkley is the most obvious piece. Saquon Barkley's not under contract after this year. And Saquon Barkley's a guy that could go to a football team and put them over the top for a Super Bowl. So if there is a deal there where you could get significant draft capital, you have to seriously consider it, especially if you don't plan on bringing him back. You have to seriously consider it. And you look around the league, you look at a team like the Miami Dolphins, right? I mean, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, could you imagine? You put Saquon Barkley on that team? They might be willing to give up something to get a player like that. The way that he's looked so far this year. So he's the first one that comes to mind for me in terms of a guy that we could potentially trade. But obviously, we're not even going to consider that until such time the deadline gets here and we know for a fact we're going to be sellers. And then that's up to Shane to identify the players on this team and which guys he wants to bring back and keep here long term and so on and so forth. Outside of that, I mean, I don't think you're trading Leo. I think the plan is to keep Leo here. I know some fans look at that contract, they say you can save money. I think they're going to try to work out an extension with Leo next year. He's too important to this defense, and that's my honest opinion. There's not many other pieces. I mean, there's not many other pieces that would get you much, if I'm being honest, because a lot of the better players on this team are young, guys like Andrew Thomas, right? So Xavier McKinney, you're not trading those guys. So the most obvious guy that could get you something, if we were out of it, and you identified he wasn't going to be a part of the future, would be Barkley. Ayub, man, thank you very much, man. He says, Shane picks look horrendous. Oh, God. Ayub, love you, buddy. You're always very active on my channel. You're very active on Twitter. You talk to me on Twitter. I'm sorry, Ayub. Fans like you, and I'm not saying you're entitled to your opinion. Fans like you drive me up a wall. Fans like you drive me up a wall. How many games have Joe Shane's draft picks played? 3. How many games has Kayvon Thibodeau played? 1. How many games has Dane Belton played? 2. How many games has Wan'Dale Robinson played? 0. How can you evaluate this draft class? Evaluating a draft class is like evaluating the President of the United States. You don't know how good of a job he did until he's 5-6 years out of the office. You can't evaluate a draft class till 3 or 4 years after the draft class. Are you kidding me? Relax. Relax, man. Let's see. John, man, thank you very much, man. Neil haters need to shut up. Everyone was calling AT Flowers in his rookie season. Give the Rook a chance to get a season under his belt. We desperately need a wide receiver one, an inside linebacker. We need to address the linebacker for once. I don't think he's joking, by the way. I was reactionary. I don't think he's joking. But John says, let me read that one more time. Neil haters need to shut everyone up. Shut up, everyone was calling AT Flowers in his rookie season. Yeah, listen, John, I agree with you. And I mean, it was a bad performance. It was a really bad performance. So I'm not going to tell anybody that they're wrong for criticizing Evan Neal's play last night. That's unacceptable. He got completely undressed last night. I understand that. But, at the same time, let's realize the guy's a rookie. Let's realize he's playing on the right side. Let's realize it's his 3rd game in the NFL. Let's realize he's going up against a very good veteran in Tank Lawrence, who's going to take advantage of a rookie. Let's also realize Micah Parsons was over there as well. Let's realize there's growing pains. Let's realize, like you said, we've seen Andrew Thomas go through this in his rookie year. He's a rookie. Relax. Last I checked, and I don't know where everybody's from in the stream, everybody that may be calling Evan Neal a bust or panicking. Last I checked, pot's legal in New York right now. And if you're a New York Giants fan and you're starting to worry about Evan Neal and whether or not he's going to be a bust, go do what you got to do. Because it's only been 3 games. Relax. Evan Neal's going to be fine. Evan Neal's going to be fine. May take him a year. He's going to grow. He's going to get better. Let's see what we got. Sean, man, thank you very much, man. He says, no quarterback is coming into this situation and succeeding. This current situation, I agree. You have to think it's going to be better next year. But this current situation, I agree, right? I mean, you have to figure next year Evan Neal is going to be a better player. You have to figure we address the interior offensive line a bit more next year. And you have to figure we try to get a number 1 wide receiver, or at least an upgrade over what we have in our wide receiving core. But this current team, we have nothing with all the injuries we have right now at the receiving core. And I do think this line will get better, as I've said all along over the second half of the season. But the way it's currently performing, we have nothing. There's no support. So I agree with you. Dan Jones had no chance. No quarterback had a chance with what we put out there last night. Adam, thank you very much, man. DJ is a game manager. He'll never be elite. To turn this around, we need a franchise quarterback. Even if it takes a stopgap quarterback or two, we shouldn't settle. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's fair to have that opinion, Adam. But Jones might be that stopgap quarterback. So we got to see. And like you said, we shouldn't settle. Exactly. But I could then turn it around and say that could apply to the draft, right? That could apply to the draft. We shouldn't settle and just take a quarterback to take one. So we'll let this situation play itself out over the course of the offseason. But I agree with you in the sense that if you could upgrade at the most important position on a football team, you should absolutely do it. But we got to see how they feel about the quarterbacks in this year's draft, where we're picking. We got a long way to go before we get there. John, man, thank you very much, man. Chris, also thoughts on Eric Adams wanting to demolish MSG. The city is going to redevelop Penn Station. Oh, that's the new mayor, right? I think he's the mayor, if I'm not mistaken. The former, he was with the NYPD. I think I heard about that. I didn't read too much into it. In terms of him wanting to demolish MSG. Huh. Well, they've already been redeveloping Penn Station. I went to a Knicks game last year, and I saw Penn Station. Part of it looks beautiful. It looks like and in 8 or 10 years it's going to look disgusting, but it looks beautiful right now. It's only a small portion of it. I don't know if they've expanded on it even more so since then. I'm going to go to the city tomorrow, so I'll see. But yeah, I didn't even hear that they were going to knock down MSG. I guess I missed that, but I mean, it's convenient. I hope they keep it where it is. I mean, maybe they'll. I don't know what the plans are. What are they going to knock it down and move it somewhere else in the city? I like it where it is. I go in there on the Long Island Railroad. It's right there. It's super convenient. But MSG's moved before. It wasn't always where it is at Penn Station. Jeff, man, thank you very much, man. Hey, Chris, what's up? I think the Giants going to draft Richardson from Miami. You mean Richardson from Florida? You're talking about the quarterback, I'm assuming. He's from Florida. I'm assuming that's what you mean. I have no idea who they're going to draft. Yeah, I don't know. And I'll worry about that at the end of the year. Richardson's been up and down. And he doesn't have a lot of whole college tape before this year. I recognize the guy's got some potential. He's got a very good arm. He's got mobility. He's big. He's got the tools that I'd want in a quarterback. But I think so far, and I know he had a good game last week, but he's got a little bit more growing to do, and we'll see if he does it throughout the rest of the collegiate year. So we'll see. We'll see how they feel about him. I don't know. I have no idea about the draft right now. Jukes, man, thank you very much, man. Would you trade Saquon for Trey Lance? Depends how I feel about Trey Lance. But, yeah, it depends how I feel about Trey Lance. Because at the same time, if you don't like Trey Lance, you're taking on a big salary. You're talking about a guy that was the 3rd overall pick. So if I feel there's a better quarterback in next year's draft, no, I wouldn't. I'd rather just draft my quarterback. So I guess it would depend on if I was Joe Schoen, how I felt about Trey Lance. But if I felt Trey Lance was a significant upgrade over what I had, and he was a better option than what I could potentially get in the draft, sure. But yeah, it would come down to how he feels about Trey Lance. But obviously Trey Lance hasn't looked very good so far. And he is a bit of a project. I like Trey Lance. I liked him. I liked that pick for the 49ers when they made it, but didn't look too hot his first game. I know it was only one game, and now he's had an injury. He's out for the year, so I don't see that happening. And for what the 49ers gave up for Trey Lance, they gave I think it was 3 first-round picks to go up and get him. I don't see them giving up on him yet either. Jason, man, thank you very much, man. Can we please start Jalen Smith over Calitro? I think you'll start to see Jalen Smith more involved in the defense next week. I do. This week, it was week 1. Hasn't really played so far with this team this year. I think you'll start to see him get more involved. And I do think he actually fits Wink's defense pretty well because he's a good blitzing linebacker, which is kind of what you want in a defense like Wink has. So you'll start to see him get more involved. Calitro's not good. So I think you'll get to see Jalen Smith a bit, hopefully against the Chicago Bears. I think you'll see him as the weeks go along. Jonathan, man, thank you very much, man. Chris, I felt your frustration on that take about Shane's picks. So much overreaction over less than a third of a season into these guys' career. Yeah, dude, less than a fourth of a season. Like, I'm not even going to be bent out of shape after one whole year with draft picks. Like, most rookies are not going to blow up their first year, especially once you get out of the first round. I mean, Xavier McKinney didn't do anything in his first year. You think about that, guys. 2020. Be honest with yourself. 2020. Ayub, and everybody else in the chat. What was the general outlook of our first and second round picks directly after the season? Xavier McKinney had barely played. I think he played, 4 games? Was hurt the entire year. And Andrew Thomas, I mean, people were panicking after a preseason game after his first full season against the Patriots before his second season started. Now you look at that draft class, you're like, oh my God. We got a franchise safety. We got a franchise left tackle. So, calm down. Give it a little bit of time. But Jonathan, man, thank you very much, man. And let's see. And Jonathan Patoy says, 10-year contract for AT and don't worry about him. Yeah, I don't know if I would go that far, but I'm definitely giving him. I'm giving him an extension at the end of the year. I'm putting pen to paper. I'm giving him at least 5 years on top of his rookie salary at the end of the year. The sooner you do that, the better. You identify Thomas as a premium position. He's arguably the best player at his position in the sport right now, the way he's playing. And you want to sign that as quickly as possible because the market only goes up. So at the end of this year, you lock him in. If you can make it 7 years, do it. That's my outlook on it. You're not letting a player like that walk, so sign him now while you can. So, and it makes sense for Thomas, right? He's going to be the highest paid left tackle in football the second he signs that contract. He gets more stability and security with the contract. So it only makes sense. I think the Giants have to do it. It's what smart organizations do. They're forward thinking because in the end, you're going to save money rather than you wait a couple of extra years and then give him the contract when the market goes up. So I think they need to get it done. Give them that extension the second they can this offseason. 100%. Talking Eco says, DJ's a better man than me. I would have been cursing out everyone. It was bad, man. I felt for DJ last night. During the game, I was giving him props during the game for what he was doing, but you don't really think about it during the game because you're focused so much on the game and hoping that they could pull out a victory. But after the game, as I was going to bed, and I didn't fall asleep till about 2 a.m. because I just think about the Giants after Monday Night Football. I was like, wow, man. Daniel Jones took a beating last night, man. And he just kept getting back up. And, I said it on Twitter, man. There's one thing about Daniel Jones I will never question. That's his toughness. And I'm not saying that's enough to be a franchise quarterback, but he's as tough as nails. And it's not just last night. We've seen it his entire career. He's tough. So, give him props for last night, man, for sticking. And then the other thing that he did that you love to see from a leader on your team, he took full responsibility for the loss, even though he doesn't deserve to take any of it. But he's your quarterback. That's what Eli used to do, right? Eli never, ever threw anybody under the bus when he had every right to. His offensive line was pitiful the last 6-7 years of his career. Never blamed anybody but himself, and that's what Jones did last night too. So, I got a lot of respect for Jones after last night. Cool Breeze says, I was there for the Panthers and Cowboys game. For the Panthers, the crowd was 95% New York Giants fans and way less for the Cowboys game. Need to show up better versus Chicago. So there was a lot of Cowboys fans. I'm not surprised there were a lot of Cowboys fans because there's Cowboys fans all over the country, right? That's probably more so for my generation because when I was growing up, when I was 4th, 5th grade, the Cowboys were winning all those Super Bowls. And there was tons of Cowboys fans from New York, and they probably stuck with the team because they were really good. But I'm not surprised that there were. There's not how many Panthers fans you're really going to have in the New Jersey area, right? So I'm not surprised that there were more Cowboys fans there. I don't think there'll be a ton of Bears fans. I think it'll be almost all Giants fans this week. I'm sure you'll see a little bit, but not nearly as much as you will for the Cowboys. Ayub, man, thank you very much, Chris. Why are you hating on 23 quarterbacks? DJ's gone after this year. I'm not hating on the quarterback class. I just don't know where we're going to be picking. I don't know how they're going to evaluate the class. I'm not hating on anybody. Let's just wait till the end of the year and see where we stand. That's all I'm saying. See where we stand. Let's see how Jones plays. Let's see how those guys play. And let's see if we're in a position to get one of them. John, man, thank you very much, man. How funny would it be if DJ was the stopgap quarterback and the Manning family forced Arch to the Giants like they did with Eli? I know it's a pipe dream. Yeah, it would be something else if that happened. We're a long way away before Arch even enters the NFL. He is going to be a freshman, I think, in college next year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he went to Texas, right? So he's got to play 3 years of college, and then he could enter the draft. So we got a long way before then. And who knows where the hell we're going to be picking. But that would be funny. Bob, thank you very much, man. I will say this, man. It's only high school football. Arch Manning looks really good. From the highlights that I've seen, I know he's like one of the most highly sought after high school prospects. He looks really good. Bob says, I want to give a shout out to Sterling Shepard. Great man, great player, and great Giant. Sad to see him get hurt again. Probably done here. But what Mara says, once a Giant, always a Giant. Yeah, dude. I said it earlier in the stream. He's one of my favorite Giants since he's been here, right? What has he been here for about 6 years? One of my favorite Giants since he's been here. He actually survived 3 GMs, right? Nobody else on this team could say that. Was drafted by Reese, stayed on with Gettleman, and now obviously Joe Shane. And yeah, one of my favorite Giants, man. I love Sterling Shepard. It's unfortunate that his career as a Giant, at least, is probably going to end. I didn't think he was coming back to begin with, but obviously after the injury, that's probably the last you're going to see a Shepard in a Giants uniform. We'll see at the end of the year, but yeah, unfortunate. It was just a really sad ending to the game last night. Cino, what's going on, man? In the 2023 draft, if DJ is gone, which quarterback should the Giants draft? Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, Tyler Van Dyke, assuming that Stroud and Young are gone. Again, you want me to answer this question right now? Like, my opinion could change a million times. And I've watched a little bit of those guys. The last guy you mentioned, you could cross him off. I want nothing to do with him. Tyler Van Dyke out of Miami, I want nothing to do with him. Nothing. I've watched a bit of him, not impressed at all. So I do not want him. Will Levis, I will say, it seems like a lot of members of the New York Giants fan base were overly critical about him. From what I've seen, he's looked pretty good. And I've watched probably a game and a half of his, and I've watched a couple of film breakdowns and highlights. He's looked pretty good to me. I think he's helped the stock a bit. Richardson's a guy that has the physical tools, and was a guy that a lot of people had their eyes on going into the collegiate season. And I know he had a pretty good game last week against Tennessee, but he didn't have a touchdown pass before last week. And he looked good in his first game, but the 2 games in the middle looked really bad. So, I mean, right now, I'd probably have Levis 1 out of those 3, but that could change. That could change in 5 weeks. Like, I could easily have Richardson jump him. Like, that could change in 5 weeks. So, yeah, that's just my opinion right now. But I want nothing to do with Van Dyke out of Miami. Nothing to do with him. Jeff Mendez says, yeah, Chris, I meant Florida, my bad. Oh, you didn't have to do it again, man. That's what I figured you meant, man. But thank you, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, you said Miami. Why are fans talking draft already? I mean, they can't help it, man. I'm not. I'm sorry, Billy. I mean, I haven't watched a ton of him. I've watched a little bit of Miami. I'm not impressed with him. But again, maybe I haven't even dove into a lot of these guys. I'm gonna after the season, when it's actually time to talk draft, is when I will really look at these prospects. But from what I've seen, I've not been overly impressed with him. Let's see what we got. I will say I have been impressed more with Will Levis than I thought he would, based off what I've seen, because people were destroying him on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, he's horrible." He didn't look horrible to me. Let's see. I played against Bryce Young in high school. That's pretty cool, John. That's pretty cool. But thank you to everybody for being here, man. I appreciate it, man. We're 2 weeks late. They usually talk the draft the first week. Yeah, I know we've been so accustomed to talking about the draft so early in recent years, and not so much this year because we got off to a pretty good start. Habitual says, can you speak about how Dable mismanaged the end of the first half? Yeah, Habitual. Yeah, I actually, during the game when I was calling it, I actually really liked what he did. I think I know what you're talking about with the 10 seconds left, where he went for it on 4th down and then gave them an opportunity to make a field goal. When it was 8 seconds, I really liked what he did. But then when it came out that it was 10 seconds and Dallas had called the timeout, but Dallas called the timeout, so you can't get on Dable for that. But then you could say that he should have punted on the 4th and 2, which I understand, because they only ran 2 seconds off on that play, and then they gave Dallas an opportunity to hit a 59-yard field goal. And that's fair. In that spot with 10 seconds left, I don't mind them at all going for that there. I think it was like a 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, and you have an opportunity to get in field goal range. But I didn't like the play. If there's only 10 seconds left, I think you want to design a play where you probably run like 4 seconds off the clock. Maybe you roll Daniel Jones out of the pocket and try to, either let him take off with his legs or try to hit a throw on the run. But the fact it was a quick slant and it only wasted 2 seconds on the clock, and it gave Dallas a real opportunity to get a playoff and get in field goal range, I didn't like that. I didn't mind the decision to go for it there. I just didn't like the play call. I didn't like for a quick pass that only wasted 2 seconds. I think there you want to try to waste at least another 2 seconds. So that way it's like 5 or 6 seconds by the time Dallas gets the ball, and then they really don't have too much time to get in field goal range. But the fact that they only wasted 2 seconds, I didn't like that. But I didn't mind the decision to go for it there. Let's see what we got. The Ghost of Juba, big Bears fan, coming in. He says, you'll be 2-2 after Sunday. Be happy you had the good start. We'll see, man. I'm looking forward to taking you guys on, and I think I'm going to the game, so we better win. And I'll say this, Juba, try the last Giant game I went to, we won. And we didn't win many games last year, but we won the one I went to. We beat the Eagles. So hopefully I bring some good luck and we get a win. Pack Rat, man. What's going on, man? Hate ain't a good vibes only. Learn and move on. Yeah, man. Yeah. That's all you can do. Learn, move on, grow from it. We're going to, listen, if you're realistic, you know this team's going to have losses this year, and they're going to have losses that disappoint you. Hopefully we have a couple wins that surprise us like we did against Tennessee. It's going to be a roller coaster ride, and hopefully this team gets better over the course of the year. That's all you can hope as a Giants fan this year. Man, this is why we should have drafted Rashawn Slater. I loved Rashawn Slater. You know that. That was the guy I wanted more than anybody in that draft, but Rashawn Slater's out for the year. So, might have worked out for us. He's out for the year, man. What's going on, Goat? Can we talk about how special? Hey, Goat, I give you guys all the credit you're going to get. I'm a Giants fan. But no, your defense is really good, man. Your defense is really good. Easy Money says, good quarterbacks elevate. Jones is not that. He stares down receivers. I understand that at times to say that, but last night's not the time to say it. He didn't have time to stare down receivers last night. As soon as he dropped back, he had to get rid of the ball. So he didn't have much time to stare down receivers last night. But I understand the overall critique at times. Yeah, I wanted Slater bad, man. But he's out for the year, man. Let's see. Bears run the ball well. Giants have no gimme. What's up there, Demir, man? He says, it's refreshing to see that the Giants have a competent staff and competing. Thomas is an all-pro. Thoughts on a Barkley? Yeah, that's been a popular, and I get it because he's been good. And you guys know I like Saquon Barkley a lot. But I got to be fair, and I got to think from Joe Shane's perspective. I do think that if he stays healthy and plays 17 games, I do think that there is a way he comes back, but I think it has to be within reason. You can't give him a Zeke deal. I'm sure Cowboys fans were all about it when they signed Zeke to that deal, and now they're like, oh my God, I wish we never did that. Especially with Barkley's injury history, you can't sign him to a 6-year deal. You can't do that. But it has to be within reason. The per year salary is not what concerns me. It's the years. I don't want to have to be committed to more than 3 years to Saquon Barkley because he's going to be 28, 29, I think, in like 3 years. So I don't want to commit more than 3 years. Maybe that's a 4-year deal where you can get out easily after 3. But anything more than that, and this is all provided that he stays completely healthy this year and plays 17 games, I'm not bringing him back. But the thing is, due to his injury history and everything else, even if he plays great this year, he may not have more of a market than, say, a 4-year deal. A lot of times these running back salaries end up being less than people expect. So that's something that we'll look at the end of the year. And I think the possibility of it going up, of him coming back, is if Jones is not, because then you could maybe convince yourself he could help a rookie quarterback. So we'll see at the end of the year, man. That's definitely going to be a big topic of conversation throughout the entirety of the offseason if he continues to play well. And Steve, man, what's going on, man? Just saying respect from Canada. I appreciate that, Steve, man. I'm a big fan of maple syrup. I like Labatt Blue. So next time I'm in Canada, maybe we'll hang out. Lafine du Monde is actually a really good beer. I think that's a Canadian beer as well. But, man, I appreciate you popping in. I'm not a big hockey fan, though, so don't get mad at me for that. What can we get for Golladay? I'm going to tell you what we can get for Golladay. If we traded Kenny Golladay, we would have to also trade probably a 2nd or a 3rd round draft pick. That's what we could get for Kenny Golladay. That's how bad Kenny Golladay is, and that's how bad his contract is. The only way you'd be able to trade Kenny Golladay is if you ate a significant amount of that contract. And at that point, you're probably better off just sticking with him this year than cutting him next year. So that's my outlook on Kenny Golladay. I think we're stuck between a rock and a hard place with that contract. Demir says, do you think the Giants will spend big on wide receivers in free agency? Another good question. I haven't looked at the free agency market quite yet, so I don't know who's going to be available. We're going to have some money to spend, but I also have to see what we're going to do with the players on the team, right? Are we keeping Barkley? If we keep Barkley, that changes things. How much does the potential Andrew Thomas extension affect next year's cap? So, I think they'll add a receiver free agency if I had to guess. I don't think they'll add like a premium wide receiver. I don't think they're going to spend huge bucks like they did with Kenny Golladay. But yeah, I mean, we're so thin at that position. I would think we're going to add somebody, some kind of contributor at the wide receiver position. I think we're going to draft a wide receiver. Might not be in the first round. It might be. Depends if we're going quarterback or not. But I think we're going to draft another wide receiver as well. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we sign a wide receiver. But I don't think we're going to sign like an upper echelon wide receiver. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we sign a wide receiver. We're losing so many of them. I mean, Slayton's probably not going to be back next year. Galladay's not going to be back. Shepard's not going to be back. So yeah, we're going to have to bring in a couple of wide receivers. Let's see. Steve says, when Barkley scored, I thought we won. I'm livid. I mean, so did I. I mean, I think, Steve, at that point, you should expect to win. You're home. You're going up against the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush, your quarterback. It's late in the third quarter, I think there was about 4 or 5 minutes to go. You got a 7-point lead. You expect your defense there to at least hold them to 3. And not only did they give up 7 there, they gave up a 7 on the next drive. 89 yards they went down the field. So I think most Giant fans, when they were watching that game in live time, probably thought the Giants had a very good chance to win that game after we took a 13-6 lead. And things just didn't work out. It is what it is. You got to move on, and hopefully we can play better next week. Carlos, it was just a 1-year thing. It wasn't a permanent sponsorship, just a 1-year thing. Defense really sold us after Barkley. Yeah. And John says the only notable free agent wide receiver in 2023 is Jarvis Landry. We're definitely going to be yeah. So again, I haven't looked at the free agents. It's possible we could explore the trade market as well, right? I mean, the Bills got Stephon Diggs via trade. We see wide receivers actually get traded somewhat frequently in the NFL. It's possible. I mean, I have no idea who. But I definitely think the Giants are going to prioritize that next year for sure. That's definitely going to be one of their biggest areas they're going to be looking at, along with corner, as well as some other positions. Ghost of Judas says, the Giants, Dwarves, Smurfs, all bear food, purge to New York City. Oh, we're just gonna have to kick your ass this week, my man. We're just gonna have to kick your ass this week, my man. We're gonna have to make Justin Fields wish that he stayed at Ohio State for another year rather than come out and play for your football team. We'll see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to going to the game, and hopefully we kick your ass. If the Giants don't have a chance to take a top quarterback prospect in the draft, Tyrod Taylor will be a quarterback in 2023. I think Taylor. I don't think he would be the unquestionable starter. I think if we went that route and we didn't keep Jones, we would bring in somebody else to compete with Taylor. That's just my opinion, but who knows? I don't think that'll happen though. Here's what I'll say. I think if we don't draft a quarterback, provided that Jones plays all 17 games and stays healthy and plays pretty good, if we don't draft a quarterback, Jones will be back in some capacity, on a 1-year commitment. That's my prediction. If we don't draft a quarterback, now I'm predicting we're going to draft a quarterback. I'm predicting we're going to win 7 games, and if we win 7 games, I'm leaning that we're probably going to have a quarterback. But if we don't draft one, I think they'll probably bring Jones back on like a 1-year commitment. But, I could see like a Jameis Winston type deal, depending on how he plays this year. Winston got like 2 years, $28 million, $14 million a year, a deal that I think they have like no dead cap hit after the first year. Like I could see something like that if they're not in a spot to draft a quarterback. Let's see. What's up, Foxy Dog, man? Thanks for popping in, buddy. My opinion, Taylor would start next year, and we will bring in a rookie quarterback. Yeah, if we bring in a rookie quarterback, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense, right? You start Taylor kind of like what they did with the Chargers with Herbert and what they did with the Browns with Mayfield. Taylor starts. I think the plan was probably for him to start 4 games or so, but he got hurt. I think when he was with the Chargers, when he was with the Browns rather, and they threw Mayfield into the fire quicker than people thought. But you do something like that if you draft the quarterback, because Taylor's definitely going to be here next year. When you look at his contract, his dead hit is basically as much as his contract. I think he's got like a $5 million dead hit, and he's due to make like 6.5. So he's going to be back here next year. And I think that was the plan all along, was Taylor's either going to be, a multi-year backup for Daniel Jones if Jones works out this year. And it makes sense due to the fact that Jones historically has missed games due to injury. So you want a pretty good backup. Or if Jones does not work out and we draft a quarterback, he's a perfect mentor and a perfect guy that could start the first 3 or 4 weeks until such time we feel like our rookie quarterback's ready. So I think that was the plan when they brought him in. I think it was a good pickup because of that. I think he's perfect for that type of role. Trinity Man, he says, Tanner, your next day to 100K sub. No, not by New Year's, man. I don't go live enough anymore. But I appreciate the support, man. I appreciate all my subscribers and everybody that supports the channel. Stream schedule this week. Yeah, VT Jake, I talked to Mike Too Nice. I think he's coming on the channel on Thursday. That's the plan, at least as of now, because we do our weekly show. Friday, I always go on Patricia Trainer's channel. I'm going to be on Bad Dog's channel as well. I don't know what day that's going to be. And I'll be live on Saturday, like I've done the first 3 weeks. The night before stream, we'll do another one of those the night before, and I'm going to be at the game on Sunday, so I'm not going to be live that day. Bad Dog's going solo. Next 2 games will be on my channel because obviously this week was on Bad Dogs. This game will be on Bad Dogs as well because I'm not going to be here. So the Ravens and Packers game will be on mine. But yeah, maybe I'll give you guys some content from the parking lot for a bit. I don't know. If not, if you're going to the game, I hope to get to meet a lot of you guys. I'm getting there really early. I talked to Justin over from Talking Giants. He doesn't have an organized tailgate for the game. He had an organized tailgate for a catered tailgate for the Monday night game, and I was going to go to that, but I just started a new job like 3 weeks ago, and I got to get up at like 5 a.m. So I was like, it's probably not a good idea for me to go to a Monday night game. So I decided to go to the Bears game, and I'm going to meet up with him. He's going to be there at 8 a.m. So I'm going to try to get there at like 8:30. And if you guys are going to the game, I'd love to meet some of you guys in the parking lot. I'll definitely let you guys know the details, exactly where I'm going to be. I think it's lot L, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where Justin said he tailgates. So I think it's lot L, but I'll give you the exact location. Hopefully I get to meet some of you guys if you guys are going to the game. Phenopolis, man, and my plan is I'm going to be going with my brother, hopefully. Phenopolis says, I've been trying to trade Slayton for a man of for a can of Coke for a while. But if we trade Galladay, we'll need to give up many cans. Exactly. We're not trading Galladay. No, there's no market for Galladay. I missed a no, I didn't. Rather, they all just came together. Pimp named Slickback, man. What's going on for draft? I don't know who we'll take, but I want a guy who will be top 8 at least if we take the swing. Shoot for the stars, Mr. Shane, and get us a center too. Yeah, I agree with you, Pimp named Slickback. If we're going to draft a quarterback, people have asked me this in the past before. Like, I'm just going to bring up these 2 quarterbacks just because I feel like both of them were very highly thought of. And I thought one had a much higher ceiling than the other. And both of them have turned out to be really good so far. But Joe Burrow, I'm going to say, Joe, if you give me an option as prospects, before we've seen what they've done in the NFL, if I was a general manager and you said, Chris, do you want to prospect like Joe Burrow or do you want to prospect like Josh Allen? Joe Burrow's safer. Joe Burrow is going to work out to be a top 10 quarterback, may work out to be a top 5 quarterback. But Joe Burrow's ceiling to me is not on the level of a guy like Josh Allen coming out as a prospect. It's not on the level of a guy like Pat Mahomes coming out as a prospect. So that, to me, if I'm a GM, that's the type of prospect I go for. The quarterback position is so unpredictable to begin with. You think about all these number 1 overall picks where you miss. If you're going to take a swing on an early first-round draft pick on a quarterback, swing for the fences. That's my mindset on it. So, and I think that's what Joe Shane will do. I mean, that's what they did in Buffalo with Josh Allen. So that's what I think he'll do if we go quarterback. I think they'll identify a guy that they think has that kind of potential and see if they could get the most out of it with coaching. Irish Rover. Thank you very much, man. Chris, do you think the Giants have to make a commitment to Jones before the draft? Yes. But we're going to know before the draft, Irish Rover, whether or not Dan Jones is going to be part of the New York Giants in 2023. Because Dan Jones is a free agent. So if he's going to sign somewhere else before the draft, if he doesn't sign with the New York Giants. So we will know going into the draft where the New York Giants stand at the quarterback position. It's not going to be a mystery as to what they may do at that position. Now, it still could potentially be a mystery. If we let Jones walk, maybe we sign another veteran to compete with Taylor and we punt the position for a year because we want to go cheap at the position and fill in other holes on our roster, I suppose. But you will know before the draft if Daniel Jones is going to be back with the Giants. Chris Parks, man, thank you very much, man. Chris to Chris. Was the Dallas O-line that good or our pass rush? Or our pass rush a concern? I know it's one game, but not one sack. Want to see more where you're at with it. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's one game, right? I do not think the Dallas offensive line is what it used to be. So I understand where you're coming from, Chris, with being concerned, but it's one game. It's one game in which Kayvon Thibodeau probably is not himself yet. He's probably not in game shape, right? he hasn't played. I mean, he hasn't played since the preseason because he's been banged up. So he's probably not in game shape. He's a rookie. I think you're going to see him get better as the weeks go along. The same can be said for Azeez Ojulari. They both returned this week from injuries. And Dallas did a really good job. They definitely picked up the blitz time and time again. But the other main reason, Chris, why I think the pass rush struggled more so this week than the other 2 weeks is Leonard Williams. If this didn't open your eyes to everybody that says, oh, Leonard Williams is overrated. Leonard Williams only gets 5 sacks, 6 sacks, 7 sacks. He overrated. If this didn't open your eyes this week to how good of a football player Leonard Williams is and how important he is to this defense, nothing will. New York Giants have given up 2 runs for over 46 yards on the ground in the 5 quarters that Leonard Williams has not played. Well, Leonard Williams was in there. They held Derrick Henry to 80 yards on the ground. They held him to like 20 yards in the second half. They kept McCaffrey in check until such time Leonard Williams went down. Then he sprung the big 49-yard run. Pollard had a 46-yard run this week. And Leonard Williams was getting great interior pressure, which was giving guys on the outside opportunities to get sacks. So I think that had as much to do with it as anything else, why the pass rush wasn't getting home. If Leonard Williams plays in that game last night, it might have been a completely different football game. Completely different. I could guarantee you they're not running for 175 yards, and I guarantee you we're getting more pressure than we did. So I think that had a lot to do with it as well, with the pass rush. Leonard Williams not being out there definitely hurt our defense. But thanks, man. I appreciate it, buddy. And the fact that, like I said, Thibodeau and Ojulari, man, it's their first game back coming back from injury. Steve, man, he says, I died when Bando code Galladay COVID-19. Yeah, you can't catch it. Bear, man, thank you very much, man. Leonard Williams is washed. What? I can understand not liking the contract. He's certainly not washed. Bear, thank you very much, man. I honestly didn't think Jones played that bad for being under constant pressure. He played better than not that bad. I'd say wide receivers are our biggest need in the draft or trade. We may have the worst wide receiver group in the league. It's wide receiver and corner for me. I think those are our 2 biggest needs. People may argue, but excluding the quarterback, it's wide receiver and corner right now would be my 2 biggest pressing needs going into next year. Bear, right now, if you ask me. No man, he says, I expected more from Kayvon, but it's okay. This was his first NFL start, so I'll cut him some slack. Micah Parsons didn't do much in his first start. Hey, I'm going to warn you right now, and he may or may not, but Kayvon Thibodeau may not be great his first 5 starts in the NFL. Might not be great in his first 6 starts. It may take him some time. But I do think Kayvon Thibodeau has a lot of potential, and I do think he's going to be a very good football player. I'm not going to set Micah Parsons' expectations. He's the best, probably the best defensive player in the National Football League. So that's setting the bar a little too high, in my opinion. But I do think he's going to be a very good football player, and I do think he's going to help out this defense a lot. But it may take him some time. But hopefully he gets it going, man. Let's see. Ricky Ortiz says, Chris, you're the GOAT. You look great on 75 inches. It's Nikki. Oh, what's up, Nikki? Good to see you. And thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for popping in the stream. On God, I thought I was watching Josh Allen yesterday. Jones was doing his thing. He just didn't get received. Yeah, I'm not going to say that, but Jones played really well. No, I said corner. I said maybe you thought I said quarter. Yeah, I said the 2 biggest needs outside of QB, which some could certainly argue for me, are CB and wide receiver. Those are the 2 biggest needs, CB and wide receiver. Chris Park says, I agree with you. Leo was a huge hit to our defense, and whoever said Leo was washed, stay off the weed. No, man, Leo's produced, man. The other thing that you can say about Leo, and I know he just got hurt, and I hope I'm not jinxing anything, but Leo, over the course of his entire career, has been incredibly durable. So that's valuable, man. You think about all the guys on this New York Giants team who can't stay on the field. Going back to his time with the Jets, incredibly durable. So he's good. He's very good football player. And you saw the impact on him not being out there. Certainly had on last night's game, and both the run and the pass, by the way. Outside of the pick, I'm glad Jones really didn't turn it over. Yeah, I mean Jones had a good game. Knock on wood immediately. There you go. As loud as I can, Cookie, bro. Tina, you got to pick us to win versus the Bears. I think I'm gonna, because there's no point in me to continue to do it now. We got to switch it up. But no, I'm just gonna give you my honest predictions, and I'll wait until such time I see the injury report and everything else. But I'm definitely leaning a Giants win this week. But wouldn't be shocked either way. I think it'd be a close game, but I think I'm leaning a Giants win. Tana was at the game yesterday, and man, when Barkley scored the touchdown, I went nuts. DJ looked like he was getting pressured immediately. The whole game he was getting pressured, start to finish. He got hit. He got pressured 24 times. The most times he's ever been pressured in a football game, and he only had 30 pass attempts. That's the craziest thing. We all need to stay patient. Yeah. What's going on, Jared Mercado? Man, thanks for popping in. We're gonna end this in like 15 minutes. I gotta do something real quick anyway, so I didn't plan on going past 8:30. So we're gonna end this about 15 minutes, but. I appreciate all you guys, man. I'm having so much fun talking to you guys. Obviously, we're still getting over the loss yesterday, but hopefully you guys have eased your minds a bit. And hopefully you're getting ready for this week when we beat Judah's Chicago Bears. Katrick, man, what's going on, man? Onwards and upwards. See you Sunday. Oh, you're going? Yeah, man. Katrick, I'll definitely know. I'll let you know where I'm going to be. I got to communicate with Justin. I think it's like I want to say like L16, he told me. I don't remember, but I know it's an L. So I'm going to be there early. I'm getting there at like 8:30. So hopefully I get to see some of you guys over there. Appreciate you too, Davey, man. For the millionth time, Golladay has no value. Of course, I agree. We're not going to be able to trade him. But Bears aren't worried about your whack wide receiver. I mean, goes to Judah. You're absolutely right. They shouldn't be. But who are you to talk? A Bears fan, and don't get me wrong, you have every right to say that you shouldn't be worried about our wide receivers. Our wide receivers stink. But a Bears fan making fun of another team's wide receiver core is like, think of a 500-pound guy making fun of another 400-pound person's weight. Like, who are you to talk? Your wide receiving core is like the worst wide receiving core in the NFL. You think I'm worried about your wide receiving core? Calvin says, what happened to the Jets quarterback that was seeing ghosts? Good example of a potential player with a bad situation. Sam Darnold? Hasn't worked out, man. Hasn't worked out. He went to the Panthers, and I think he got hurt, but he even lost his job before he got hurt. Mayfield won the job. And Cool Breeze says, thoughts on the New York Giants being -3.5 for Chicago. I mean, I didn't look at the lines, but I assumed it was going to be right around 3, 2.5, 3. It'll probably come down. It'll probably come down to 3 or 2.5 before the game, but I think that's about what it should be. It should be right around 3 points. They're at home. The other thing that you got to factor in, it's our third straight home game. So there's no travel involved. We should be even more rested. I think we should be favored. I think we're the better team, but we'll find out on Sunday. Tibbs and Old Jewelry will be getting to the quarterback often. I sure hope so, Crazed. We're not getting anything for KG. Ain't happening. Ain't happening. Let's see. Judah, week 2 fields at 75 pass yards. Week 2 he had 100. Yeah, not scared of Chicago. If we can't beat Chicago, we're in big trouble. And I'm not saying I'm guaranteeing victory. I don't guarantee victory against anybody. Tommy B says DJ is throwing the postal workers. Yeah, yes, you're absolutely right, Tommy. I don't even know if they classify as postal workers. I don't know what they are. They're not good, though. Would you trade Kenny during the season? We're not going to be able to trade him. Nobody's trading for Kenny Golladay. Nobody. So much drinking and chatting and so early in the week. What's up, T? Do you think there's any way we could trade for Jeff Okudah? Is Okudah starting for the Lions? I know at the beginning of the year, I thought I saw on the depth chart he wasn't. Let me take a quick look at the snaps he's got. But I doubt we're going to trade for him. But let me take a look at the snaps he's gotten. Yeah, I guess he's got 17 tackles, so I'm assuming he's starting. 64 grade. All I could go by. No interceptions. He's been really underwhelming with the Bears, with the Lions rather. But obviously he's had a lot of injuries too. So, I mean, I doubt the Lions are going to trade him. And Steve says he's throwing to bagel makers. Yeah. Yusef says DJ will be here next year, but he will not get the bag. He will get tagged. If he is back next year, I don't think it'll be a tag. I think it'll be like a 3-year deal that you could get out after 1, so they could move the money around rather than have to commit just a straight $32 million, because that would really kill our cap next year if we did that. So I think if he does come back, it'll be like a 2 or 3 year deal, but basically a 1-year deal. But they do it that way so they can move the money around. And Michael says trade for Mims. Has Denzel Mims been getting any reps with the Jets? I know he was way down on the depth chart, and there was a potential trade. Yeah, he hasn't played. There was potential trade demands going on in the year that he said he wasn't happy. That's at least a little realistic. Like maybe that's because we're really desperate for wide receivers right now. Mims looked pretty good against the Giants when we played him in preseason. Former second-round pick out of Baylor. We're desperate. So, I mean, if you get him for next to nothing, I'd be open to that. I don't know if the Jets are still talking trades with him, but that one makes some sense. Love you, Chris. Keep up the good work on the way. I appreciate it, Nikki. Yeah, I think I'm like 198. I've kind of maintained the last 2 weeks, but I'm getting back on it now. That this week, getting back to the gym now. I'm working from home now. First 3 weeks I was commuting to the city. Now I work from home 4 days a week, so we're getting back to the gym. By the way, somebody said Cubs. That reminds me because I'm gonna listen to some of the Mets game after this because I gotta go and do something. But how the Mets doing real quick? Oh, the Mets, man. What the hell, man? Oh, come on. Why is everything so? I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to the Braves series anyway, but they're down 4-0 to the Marlins. Braves up 3-2. So Braves about to tie us. Steve says, Richie James like Cooper Rush. What is going on? What about him? What do you mean he's like Cooper Rush? He's our number one wide receiver, if that's what you're getting at. In terms of, I guess, surprising, kind of like Cooper Rush has with the Cowboys. He's not a good guy to have as your number one wide receiver, though. He's like a good number 4. Not a number 1. Congrats on working from home. It's the life. What do you do? A government job, Alexander. I'm not going to get into like specifics, but government job. And I appreciate it. Most jobs now, I feel like people are working from home. They're doing that more since the pandemic, and they found that it's more productive that way. Kelvin says 2 more years and we'll be Super Bowl contenders. From your lips to God's ears, man. From your lips to God's ears, Kelvin. Let's get it done, man. Let's go, man. No, don't. Who the heck do you think your Bears are? Bro, I'm praying Wandell or Tony available for Sunday. Yeah, I mean, from what I read today, don't count on it, man. Don't count on it, man. No, it's not the IRS, John. It's not the IRS. Steve says, meant to say cup. Oh, okay. I was gonna say that's a big difference. I mean, I hope he develops into that. I very much doubt that, but I hope he could develop into that. Now, Cooper Kupp was a really good wide receiver coming out. I always thought he was underrated. Never thought he'd be this. Obviously, playing with McVay helps him, but never thought he'd be this. But I liked him coming out. KG or Jamarcus Russell, if forced to have one, who would it be? That's a random question. I guess Kenny Golladay, because Jamarcus Russell, I mean, he hasn't played football in forever. I wouldn't want either one, though. Yeah, it's the one good thing that came out of the pandemic besides the nickname for Golladay. Yeah, and I feel like most businesses are going to stay with that because it's more cost effective, and I think they found out that people are still getting their work done just as much. But we'll see. Hopefully, it never goes back. Hopefully they continue this, or at least to some capacity. Obviously, certain jobs you got to go into offices, but let's see. If we're not even getting one of our injured receivers back, we're in big trouble. The Bears' defense ain't sweet. It's gonna be tough. I mean, Saquon Barkley's gonna have to have a big game, man. Without our wide receivers, we're gonna have to stay committed to the run. Tommy says Jones bowled. It should have been so much uglier. Can everyone tell me how the game would look if Jones didn't suit up? Well, we should have lost that game by 14 to 17 points last night, just based off the trenches and how much more dominant the Cowboys were on both sides of the ball. Zeke, he says, beloved, I'm in the building on Sunday. If you don't see me, you'll hear me. Dude, I don't know what time you're getting there, Zeke. I'm going. So let me know, man. I'm going to be there really early. I'm going to be Justin does a tailgate every week. He gets there at 8 a.m. So I don't know if I'm going to get there at 8, but I'm definitely going to get there before 9. So I'll be in the parking lot for at least 3 hours before the game. So I'll put yeah, you follow me on Twitter. So I'll post it on Twitter. And if you guys are there early, anybody that wants to come and hang out for a bit, I'd love to meet some of you guys. No, not this week, Nikki, because I'm going to the game. After that, we're calling every game together. But this week, I'm going to the game. So, no, we'll not be calling the game this week. John Ross, yeah, a lot of people have said Will Fuller. They seem to think that he's the type, and it makes sense. He brings a different dynamic than any other wide receiver on this team. He, of course, is an injury waiting to happen, but he's much better than some, you would think is much better than some of the guys we could throw out there right now. Irish says, congrats on the new job. Government jobs have great benefits. I worked for the government for, 44 years, man. Wow, good for you, man. I'm retired at 63. Yeah, I mean, several members of my family, my mom worked for the government for years. My sisters worked for the government. Yeah, and that's why you get those jobs for the benefits. But that's awesome, man. Congratulations on the early retirement. So you think we're good, bro? Do I think the Chicago Bears are good? No. Am I taking you for granted? No. I'm not. I don't take any opponent for granted. It's not like, the Giants are like this incredible team. So, but no, you guys don't scare me if I'm being completely honest. I don't think you're a real 2-1 football team. Yeah, I think you're beatable. I think we should win, but I think it'd be a really close game. It could go either way, especially with all the injuries we have. Neil just needs to learn to got to take the time to develop. I remember watching Thomas's first game against the Steelers and thought he was the biggest bust. Now he's a top 5 left tackle. Trust the process. Yeah, I'm Jake. If that didn't teach us a lesson as fans that we should have some patience, especially with that position, nothing will. Andrew Thomas, everybody said, was so bad after his first year. Now he's arguably the best left tackle in the sport. So that tackle traditionally is a position that is slow to develop. So I'm not even worried a little bit right now about Evan Neal. Now, year 2, if he looks like this, that's a different story. But we got a long way to go. Am I satisfied with our play? Yes, I am. I actually think all things considered, the play calling was good last night. I'm not going to say it was great, specifically in the second half, because I thought they should have relied a bit more on the run than they did. Now, when you say play calling, I'm assuming you mean offense. But yeah, I think all things considered, with as bad of an offensive line we had, as poor as the offensive line play was last night, I actually thought they did a good job in terms of, giving Daniel Jones some good opportunities to, complete some passes, move the football. They mixed up the pass and run really well. The pass set up the run. So yeah, I actually thought the play calling was very good. Steve, send the friggin' safety blitz. Oh, we're going to be blitzing a lot this week. Trust me. Going up against Justin Fields, we'll be blitzing a lot. Now, you got to worry about Fields if he breaks containment. He's definitely a guy that can beat you with his legs, but we're going to be aggressive on defense. Let's see. We got to understand not everyone is going to develop like Andrew Thomas just because Thomas panned out doesn't mean Neil will. I agree with that also. But there's no reason to panic yet. It's 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks in. And it's not like we're talking about a guy that wasn't very highly thought of. This was a very strong tackle class, right? Charles Cross, I think, went in the top 10. Aquanu went in the top 10. And Evan Neal, of course, went in the top 10. So you had 3 top 10 picks or right around there at the tackle position, right? So it was a very strong tackle class. He was very highly thought of, not just by the Giants, but by everybody else. So there is reason to think that this guy's going to become a very good football player. Let's give him some time, man. Fields a bust. Listen, I don't get to see Justin Fields every week. What I can tell you about Justin Fields is coming into the pros, I was not the biggest fan of his. But I thought he could be a good quarterback. But much like the New York Giants with Daniel Jones, the Chicago Bears have done the same exact thing to Justin Fields. The same exact thing. So with the Bears, I don't think he's going to succeed. I don't. Maybe next year things turn around. I don't know. But I think the Bears completely set him up to fail, much like the New York Giants set Daniel Jones up to fail. So it's a horrible spot for him to land, and the Bears haven't done him any favors. That's what I'll say about Justin Fields. Honest thoughts on Shepard, one of my favorite Giants of all time. So devastating. I think that's his last game as a Giant. There's an old saying, it goes that if your quarterback is from OSU, your team is doomed. All right, let me ask the chat that. Let me ask the chat that. Alonzo with a 3-run homer. Good. We're only down 1 now. Good. Bad Dog is one that believes that. He believes that the school a quarterback goes to scares him in terms of drafting them in the draft. Are you guys a guy that judges a quarterback by the helmet? Because I am not. I just think Ohio State up to this point has not had a great NFL quarterback. Because I could look at several other schools where you could have said the same thing until the guy came in and did really well. So I don't buy into that. Now, are there some schools that prepare their quarterbacks better for the NFL based off the system that they run? 100%. And can I understand the argument of that, the system that Ohio State runs, it's harder to analyze and judge these quarterbacks due to the fact that the wide receivers are more wide open and they have a lot of talent? Yes. But at the end of the day, if the guy could play, the guy could play. And so far from what I've seen from Stroud, I think he could play. And maybe I'll be wrong, but if I had the first pick in this year's draft and I needed a quarterback, CJ Stroud would be my pick. And I would not be scared at all about the Ohio State thing. MyGiants26 says, judge based off of it, he can bowl and win. Judge based off of it, he can bowl and win. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see, man. Some players are just gifted in the right system. They're elite. No, I'm not. But I'm not going to lie. Daniel Jones being Duke turned me off in the drafting him. Yeah, listen, to me, the school doesn't bother me at all. Like, I didn't want Malik Willis just for the simple reason that I didn't think it warranted taking him in the first round. But if I really liked the quarterback from Liberty, it wouldn't bother me. I'd be like, yeah, take him. First overall, take him. The school doesn't bother me, personally. But I understand what you're saying. Duke's a basketball school. And he was a zero-star recruit going in, so on and so forth. But, guys, I am going to close this out. It's 8:31. I gotta do a couple things, but thank you guys for all the support. I will be at the Giants game this week. I'll be live. The plan, at least as of now, is to be live on Thursday with Mike on this channel. Friday, I'll be on with Patricia Traina. And I'm assuming Friday I'll be on with Bad Dog as well. Probably have to do a doubleheader that night. And then Saturday, we'll probably do the night before stream. Depending. I will say this. I may have to do 2 streams that night because that game may be huge for the Mets. And I may have to stream that against the Atlanta Braves. We'll see. But, guys, have a great rest of your night. Thank you guys for all the support you guys always show on the channel. We'll talk to you guys soon. And let's go Giants. Let's get a win this Sunday against the Bears. Let's go, baby. Be good.